for the juniors of the trading card game of our European International Championships.
I know, I'm very excited. We don't get to see the juniors and seniors too often, right, on the big stage. I know they're excited. I'm also very excited, Amy.
I am absolutely ecstatic. I'm reeling. I can't wait. A fantastic matchup awaits us, and I honestly could not be prouder. So I'm absolutely riveting for this action. It's going to be a good one. I think a match for the ages. About allegedly neither competitor has lost to the opposing deck previously, so it's going to be a real clash of the titans.
Yeah, it's going to be a decider match for both players, right? Do they continue that undefeated streak in the matchup, or do they finally catch one loss? And would be the worst time to catch it, right, in the finals. But I mean, both players have already made it so far, so deep in the tournament. What a time for them.
Right, and there has to be a winner. There's finally going to be a decision. They're going to have to bring out all of the stops. But clearly these two are an expert at their craft. They've been training, and well, we're going to have a match, and it's going to be fantastic. So make sure your eyes are staying eagerly peeled for our competitors who will be along very soon. How do you feel about this matchup, Pablo?
So, I mean, I feel like on paper, Lugia does have an advantage a little bit. It has that potential to one-KO those Dragapults depending on the build, right? But over on Dragapult side, can be very aggressive against those very key Archeops. So I think the early game is really going to dictate how the rest of the game plays out, because Lugia gets a strong setup, it can feel unstoppable. But if Dragapult gets that early Dragapult, then those damage counters really add up really quickly.
Absolutely. So let's have a little look at the format before we jump into things.
This is the 2025 European International Championships, broadcasting live from the Excel Centre here in London, UK. Pokemon TCG trainers have travelled from around the world to compete over a $500,000 prize pool, precious booster packs, and prestigious championship points. Points that will get them one step closer towards qualifying for Worlds 2025 in Anaheim, California. This tournament is a 3-day event that kicked off with Swiss rounds, where every match is a best-of-3 battle. Trainers who earned total match points to exceed the threshold for their division advanced to Day 2. On Day 2, trainers continued to face off in more Swiss rounds to determine who advanced to Top Cut. After all Swiss rounds were completed, the top 8 competitors, plus all competitors with the same number of match points as 8th place, advanced into an asymmetrical Top Cut single elimination bracket until the final 2 players remained. Today, on Championship Sunday, our finalists from each division will face off and compete for the EUIC trophy and title of International Champion. Congratulations to all competitors who gained points towards Worlds 2025 this weekend. Our remaining trainers are ready to fight for the crown, so let's get our battles started.
And this is our Championship Sunday for the trading card game and the decks that will be featuring ever so soon in our juniors finals. Of course, we've mentioned Lugia V-Star Archeops versus Dragapult EX.
What a matchup. I think heading into this tournament, both decks are considered at the very top, right? I don't think there's one super dominant deck like we used to have with Regidrago, but Dragapult, as you can see, there's a lot of Dragapult at the very top.
Oh,
so perhaps it's trying to take Regidrago's crown.
Well, I mean, you know, it's a consistent deck. It's done very well during this tournament. What, 4 of our decks that we're going to see today are Dragapult, because as we go into the seniors, we're going to be a Dragapult mirror match. So we're going to be shooting this Dreepy all over the show and seeing who comes out on top. But I tell you what, a Dragapult EX is going to win the seniors.
Yeah, we're going to have at least one Dragapult champion, could have potentially 3, right? But one thing's for certain, there's going to be Dreepies flying all over London today.
Absolutely. And as we come to the pinnacle, we will go on to our Masters finals, of course. But what are they playing for, Pablo?
We are playing for $25,000 in the Masters division. Of course, second place walks away with $15,000, or in the case of juniors and seniors, we're playing for $7,000 or $5,000. That's a lot of money if you're 10 years old.
10 years old. Can you imagine it? Wow. The amount of booster packs I would buy with that money would be crazy. But no, there's just as much to play for whether you're a junior, a senior, or a master. We've got points and prizes, of course. So looking at our juniors bracket, as they've been playing throughout the tournament, going through the top 8 through to semi-finals, and now we finally made it to the pinnacle of our international championships, the finals.
Yeah, we can see how Oliver made it past Adrian and Jose Cruz to make it all the way to the finals, and then Andreas had to go past Sojiro and Jake to get here. All these matches were 2-1, so you can see how tight these games were heading into the final. No easy path.
Not at all. They definitely had a tussle on their hands. Just goes to show how many talented juniors we have, and you better watch out for when they eventually come over to the Masters, because these guys are going to crush it.
Can't tell you, Amy, how many times I've played in a regional, gone up against a first-year master and gotten beaten like really badly. Just
right?
Like these kids are on a whole other level, and I think we have our players setting up and ready to go. Look at them. So cool to see the juniors on the big stage.
And they deserve it. They're fantastic players in their own right. And, you know, like you said, they crush it in all the local tournaments as well. We've got Andreas there on our right and Oliver on our left. We've got Oliver rocking our Lugia V-Star deck, and Andreas, he is rocking Dragapult today.
Yep, now looking at their accolades, Oliver has quite a few just this season. Dortmund Regional Champion, Stuttgart Regional Champion, Lille Top 4, and Gdansk Top 8. At Andreas, this is his first accolade, and what a result to have as your first one in your resume.
Absolutely amazing feat, and Andreas could go all the way. They are being coached currently by Drago, apparently, so I'm imagining they're looking upon this feeling very, very proud. And I do have to admit to everyone watching that Oliver is from my local store, and so I'm really excited to see him play after I taught him how to play the game back in 2022. So very excited to see how both of them do. They are both top of their game and look very ready. I would be so nervous if I were them. This is a huge tournament and a very big deal, and they're right at the tippity top. No matter who comes out of this a winner, they're both winners in my eyes.
They both look completely locked in, as if playing on the big stage was just another day in the office, you know? They seem completely unfazed by everything around them, and they're just focused on making sure they're playing their best.
Absolutely, as they should be. This is the Pokemon TCG European Championships 2025, and we're about to get started with the juniors finals. I wonder who will come out on top. If you're watching from home, which deck would you be gunning for?
I'm personally, I don't know. I feel like Dragapult, now that both players are set up and ready almost to go, I think we can talk a little bit more in detail about their list. Oliver does have that Regigigas, right, which immediately deals with those Dragapults, which are hard to power up, but Andreas's list is actually quite peculiar. There's a copy of Lost City, there's, I believe, 2 Crispin, so usually powering up a Dragapult can be a little tough, especially if you only have Sparkling Crystal, which is something we've seen a lot in the Masters division, but Andreas just really wants to make sure he has access to the 2 energies at the right time.
Absolutely, and you know, keeping that consistent flurry of attacks into Lugia can still be really tough. So both players looking raring and ready to go.
I think we had a couple mulligans to resolve before we get this match started. Now, Oliver does have a very peculiar Cinchino line that you were talking to me about earlier. Tell us a little bit about that, Amy.
So at our locals, we have a bit of a joke about the Cinchino line, saying the optimum Minccino-Cinchino line is a 1-2 line, as we like to play the Thornton. And so it kind of feels like you don't need more than one, and then you don't risk starting a basic. But unfortunately, this can be the payback. If it gets stuck in the prize cards, then it will be unavailable. And that Wellspring Ogerpon also being in the prize cards can be really damaging to a match against Dragapult.
Yeah, that pressure to the bench can be super key. But for Andreas as well, he prized that Temple of Sinnoh, so he won't be able to deactivate that Legacy energy or that Mist energy to be able to place the damage counters wherever he wants. So both players having, I want to say, impactful enough prizes to where either of those cards, the Minccino or the Temple of Sinnoh, could end up dictating who ends up winning this game.
It really could. Those prize cards could be everything, but hopefully both players have a stellar plan to put into action once we get started. But honestly, I'm so excited. Will it change the entire turn of the battle to have those key pieces prized?
I mean, I think Oliver definitely will notice the lack of Minccino. Of course, you have Regigigas to deal with one Dragapult, but then dealing with another one when you don't have access to that one-hit KO option can be very problematic. Now, we are getting our match started. We do have the Buddy Puffin for Andres getting those Dreepies established. And over on Oliver's side, we have that very threatening Iron Hands.
Yeah, definitely one of the pinnacle Pokemon that you want in this match. So Iron Hands beginning our match against now a flurry of Dreepy have made it out thanks to Buddy Poffin. Buddy Poffin lets you search your deck and grab 2 Pokemon basics and put them on the bench. So we've got 2 Dreepy, which is fantastic start from Andreas. But I'm not seeing much else in the hand right now. We've got multiple Iono, but can't play a supporter on the first turn. So it's just passing over to Oliver now.
Yeah, pretty decent setup. You can't ask for much more. I like how Andres just gets 3 Dreepies down just in case. Probably not going to follow this up with a turn 2 Dragapult EX. You can maybe expect the active Dreepy to go down. So want to be very careful and make sure you have enough Dreepies as backup. Now, for Oliver though, that Jack being played immediately could be pretty good. If there's an Ultra Ball to go with it, you get your 2 Arceus into a discard pile right away. Or it could signify that maybe his hand is not too great. Now, I love this. Getting used to note-taking since you're this young, Amy. I started note-taking when I was 30 years old, so...
Oh, wow. Oliver's got a bit of a head start on you.
Yeah, for sure. And it's definitely something important, right? Like, it can help you make sure that you're not making a mistake when you were making a play based around a card that was priced, and all of a sudden you're stuck there being like, well, that's not going to work now. What do I do?
Absolutely. So we're going in with the Shaq. First of all, of course, the key part of Lugia gameplay is that on your first turn, we need a Lugia V in play, at least one, really fantastic. And we would like to get as many Archeops, optimally 2, into the discard pile ready for the next turn. So Lugia V doesn't do much on its own, but we absolutely need it in play for evolution next turn. And we want those Archeops in the discard pile. So hopefully Oliver, like you say, will find a way of hunting down those key pieces early on. But like you said, love this, taking his time on the first deck search to find out what's in the prize cards. Unfortunately, they're not great.
Unfortunately, yeah. That Ogerpon, the Minccino, even one Lugia could be an issue if he's not able to like get off to a strong head start. And now I think Andres has a very good possibility at any moment in the game to use a Dusknoir and be able to take down both Archeops. So it's going to be very important for Oliver to manage his energy very, very well and try to get as many as possible into play in case that play happens, which I think based on both players being in the finals, I'm sure they've both really prepared and tested this matchup in particular. So I'm sure they're both going to be very aware of that perilous play.
Very, very much so. Okay, our first evolution, Oliver, is going for the Lugia V-Star, and our second one, an Archeops. That's the 2 evolutions of the Jacques, and then, there's one Archeops in hand and an Ultra Ball, Pablo!
Yeah, this hand is actually super, super strong. Already having the Lugia V-Star, getting the 2 Archeops in the discard pile, and you know next turn, the Lugia is definitely not threatened whatsoever, so looking pretty well here for Oliver. Can't ask for better, I don't think.
No, honestly, this is kind of your ideal Lugia start. Oliver's hand is not looking bad from the get-go either, so continuing on throughout this game, looks like we're going to have a real good start and off to the races for both players. Both of their hands looking really strong, so I'd love to see both of them kind of pull the optimum strategy out of the bag and see 2 titans of the TCG in this finals.
Now, Andres does know that there's a Lugia V-Star in Oliver's hand right now, so this will make him even more likely to play the Iono that's in his hand right now. So that's going to be pretty good. But that Misagosa, it's going to help both players potentially. Oliver flips heads. That's amazing. Whatever he grabs, though, there's no Minchino or Ogerpon, both of which would be really, really good here.
Okay. Yeah, we're going for another Lugia V. Might not bench it though, might just keep that in our hand for later. Or like you say, possibly knowing that an Iono is on the cards, might be thinking, actually, I don't need that right now. If it goes to the bottom of my deck, that's a-okay. But overall, Oliver's hand looking really strong. Just checking the prize cards, look at that, looking at the notes already, and there we go. We've got that fantastic ace spec attached to Iron Hands, the Legacy Energy. It allows the Iron Hands to count as a single prize Pokemon. The opponent gets to take 1 fewer prize card when they knock it out, and it's a Rainbow Energy, so allows Iron Hands to use its Amp You very much attack.
All right, for Andres, I see that he has a Dracloak, he has a Dragapult, and he has the very crucial Sparkling Crystal in hand already. We're going to start with a Misagosa. That would have allowed to get Luminion and possibly get Arvin and actually get the turn 2 Dragapult going. However, it was a tail, so Andres just going to go for that. I guess I missaw the Dracloak in hand.
Yeah, there was a Lance, so there was a possibility at kind of using the Lance there to get that really strong Dracloak draw engine going early, but gone for the Iono, knowing that Oliver had exactly what he wanted in hand, having cherry-picked those cards earlier.
Now, there's the first Dracloak. Wonder if Andres will try to utilize Body's Ichi Pollen at this point in time. I think it would be pretty decent to try to deny Oliver the possibility to search for the Lugia V-Star, right? 1 Lugia V-Star is now at the bottom. There's the Misagosa, of course, but that is a coin flip. But if Andres uses Body here, then the only way to get it is with Misagosa or having it naturally, because even the Jack is now gone. So that could be a decent way to try to slow down Oliver's amazing start so far.
Absolutely. It's an undeniably really strong start, and I think that is absolutely the core of the issue. So trying to disrupt Oliver in any way possible could really bring this together. But for now, we're going to nest ball for another really important puzzle piece of Andreas' strategy. He needs those Duskulls down. A Pokemon can only evolve once it's been on the field for at least 1 full turn. The Duskull doesn't do much on his own, but once he evolves, he is quite the cherry picker of different knockouts, so we'll be able to certainly make a bit of a mess of Oliver's board state.
Yeah, being able to combine those damage counters from Curse Blast with the damage counters from Phantom Dive can be quite deadly. Now, I think Andres, no energy attachment, only 1 Dracloak, has a pretty decent hand to follow this up. Now it's on Oliver to find that Lugia V-Star, and it's already hand.
Oh, that was a devastating pass from Andreas. It's really going to slow him down. And Oliver got the heads on the Mesagoza. Again, that Mesagoza is putting in work for Oliver today and just not helping Andreas at all, which is exactly what you want from your stadium. You want it to help you and not your opponent. Stadiums can be used by either player if they have an effect that can do so, just like this one.
All right, we're going to see that Luminion for a very crucial boss's orders that indicates that the Lugia V-Star is already in hand. And I'm thinking, Amy, that Drag Cloak is going to be hitting the discard pile this turn.
I think you might be absolutely right as we see the rainbow boss's orders, Giovanni coming through. And I believe his bossy nature will mean that Drag Cloak absolutely will hit the discard pile, which will slow Andreas down massively. We've gone for the Summoning Star on Lugia V-Star that allows Oliver to get 2 Pokemon from his discard pile. They must be colorless Pokemon and put them straight on the bench. And we're activating those amazing abilities. Primal Turbo, he gets to search his deck for 2 special energy per Archeops and attach them to his Pokemon.
Preemptively benching that Regigigas and powering it up. Really well done by Oliver. Knows that Andres, in order to respond to this, it's going to be quite difficult to get Rare Candy Dusknoir, Rare Candy Dragapult, and the Sparkling Crystal, and an Energy, and a Counter Catcher. That's a lot of cards. So I'm pretty sure Oliver's feeling pretty confident here, and he went ahead and prioritized protecting the Iron Hands with the Mist Energy. However, we're going to see the knockout on the Duskull. This inadvertently prevents, or protects rather, the Archeops.
I love this. Amp you very much. Taking 2 prize cards off a simple Duskull is not only fantastic, but we did manage to get the Wellspring Ogerpon as well. Remembering that if Oliver chooses to discard the Wellspring Ogerpon, that Iron Hands, if it sticks around, can turn into a Wellspring Ogerpon with Thornton.
Right, immediately finding a nice stretcher off of their Recon Directive. We have the Dragapult, we have the Arven as well, so we can go search for that Earthen Vessel to find us some energies. But I think Andres would really like to at least KO one of the Archeops here to protect his Dragapult as much as possible from that annoying Regigigas and its Jewel Breaker attack.
Absolutely. The Meza goes a success this time for Andreas as we get to search for any Pokemon. Looks like we're considering Pheasantipity, one of the strongest newer cards in our roster, where most decks play Pheasantipity nowadays because it's just that good. It's Flip the Script ability, allows you to draw 3 cards if on the previous turn one of your Pokemon was knocked out. So it's not often used for the attack. We just want it on the bench for that really awesome ability.
That shows how Andres completely understands. He's trying to go, I'm guessing, for that knockout on at least one Archeops. Still needs a couple of pieces. Needs to either find an energy or find a Counter Catcher from this Flip the Script.
2, we need 1 more card. Ooh.
Oh, that's huge.
Oh, nice. Forest Sealstone. And we have the Luminion already to be able to utilize it. So the Forest Sealstone can only be attached to a V Pokemon. We've already got the Luminion in hand, but do we want to do it now? Because we've already got the Supporter of Choice in hand.
Yep, now we are missing a couple of pieces, right? We need the energy, we need the Counter Catcher, and we need the Sparkling Crystal if we're going to try to go after an Archeops or go after the Regigigas. So I think Andres is piecing this out and might commit hitting this Iron Hands for 200 damage and then getting immediately knocked out by the Regigigas would be pretty devastating.
It really would. But first up, we need that first piece of the puzzle. We need the energy, so Earthen Vessel is going to help us with that. We have to discard a card from our hand. Bye-bye Tatsugiri, which is a really awesome addition in this deck, I might add. Not very common in Dragapult decks, but I appreciate the consideration of its use in this deck to help find supporters. And we're allowed to go into our deck and grab 2 energy of different types. So going ahead, we can get the Psychic and the Fire energy that we need to make Dragapult kind of the strongest it can be. Yeah,
of course. Now, we did shuffle, so maybe we're not going to go all in on this Luminion plus Forest Sealstone to find the Counter Catcher. Seems like Andreas will be content to just utilize Phantom Dive on the active. There's the Sparkling Crystal, there's the energy, so Phantom Dive is ready to go. All the drip he's about to fly here in London.
Amazing. Sparkling Crystal, when the Terra Pokemon this card's attached to uses an attack. The attack costs 1 energy fewer, so we can go ahead and use it for just the fire energy. Gonna go ahead and continue to, keep that draw engine coming. We're gonna Ultra Ball 2 cards away for a Dracloak, making sure that Recon Directive stays in play. Where we evolved 1, we're gonna make another and keep the consistency of the deck alive.
Now we're gonna try and find that counter catcher perhaps off the Dracloak, or just having it established, as you mentioned, pretty key in case your Dragapult goes down. And when there's that Regigigas in play, it's likely it's gonna happen next turn. So we'll have to see. Could be a very big recon directive here, Amy.
Here we go. What's it gonna be? Oh dear, neither of those are what we want. Now there is still the option to play the Luminion and use the Forest Seal Stone. We could go further and get the counter catcher this turn, and it looks like it's very much being considered.
Yep, Andrea's really deciding on whether it's worth it or not. Because once you bench that Luminion, sure, you protect your Dragapult, but there could be another boss's orders, and all of a sudden, Oliver takes 3 prize cards with that amp you very much. So it's almost like a lose-lose situation, but you're gonna try and win this game. You know, the one thing you know is that Oliver had to play a Luminion last turn to find the boss, right? So maybe there is no boss's orders in Oliver's hand, but of course, there's still a Mesagoza that could find that second Luminion. But we're just gonna go for the Phantom Dive here.
I like this. I think, like you said, just playing the Luminion feels too risky at the moment. We can set up damage counters and mop up later. It's not imperative to go too vicious this early and risk kind of damaging yourself in the process. Yep. Okay, on to Oliver's turn. We're going to be looking at trying to get another Amp You Very Much on one of those smaller Pokemon, like we were saying earlier. We want to definitely take a 2-prize turn, and ideally not having to deal with Iron Hand's huge retreat cost would be better.
And Oliver did find that boss's orders, perhaps from the prize cards, perhaps the top deck, but did have that available. So good call on Andreas to not bench that Luminion. And I think he might have to bench it anyways, because with the Recon Directive, he had to put the Crispin at the bottom of his deck. And if he wants to Phantom Dive, he's definitely going to need to do that.
That is very true. But if Oliver takes another 2 prize cards, taking 3 doesn't make too much of a difference to the prize map. So at that point, Andreas doesn't really mind. We're going to amp you very much another Duskull. And Oliver very much assessing that those are the problem right here and doesn't want one of those to stay in play. Oliver down to 2 prizes. Andreas still on 6. But if any deck can take multiple prize cards in one turn, oh boy, is it Dragapult.
All right. Temple of Sinnoh being prized does prevent Andreas from potentially taking a multiple prize turn here by sending that Iron Hands to the bench. Does flip heads on the Mesagoza. Likely gonna see either another Duskull, perhaps another Dracloak, but I think Andreas needs to take advantage of the fact that there's no gift energy on their hands, although, actually, never mind. He needs to deal with that Regigigas right here, right now. Otherwise, the game's over next turn.
Absolutely. Evolving another Dreepy into Dracloak. So we've got 2 Recon Directive to use this turn and a Flip the Script. Andreas is going to be drawing so many cards. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards more that Andreas will see. So hopefully he'll be able to piece together a huge combo turn right now, attaching energy for turn onto Dracloak to ensure that those energy costs are always going to be adhered to.
Are we going to see that Luminous Sign for Iono? Are we going to see the Forest Seal Stone for the counter catcher? That Regigigas needs to be dealt with right now, Amy.
Absolutely it does, because it can one-hit KO a Dragapult. That single prize Regigigas can make all the difference. And so unfortunately, you're right, it needs to be dealt with. And even if some Archeops go down, Oliver has already made the preemptive decision to start loading it up with energy, getting it ready for the future.
Right, it's going to be one better than Iono. It's going to be Roxanne. I guess technically they get the same amount of cards than Iono at this point, so good enough. We're going to see that Roxanne. No shuffling to the bottom, so any cards that Oliver has right now can be redrawn. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's not ideal. They might have the game-winning card there, but yeah, we're going to see what we get and then see if we can deal with that Regigigas.
I imagine the Forest Seal Stone might be attached first, then the Roxanne, and then we'll go on from there. Again, plenty of card draw after that as well. So the Roxanne now feels really great because we still have Flip the Script and Recon Directive available. So if Andreas does need more puzzle pieces after that, then we're live, we're all good, we are gaming. But realistically, just that counter catcher needed right now to progress the game further. But if Andreas can just solidify a hand where all of the pieces are together to make a follow-up turn, then we're grooving.
Yep. 2 cards. If the Regigigas goes down, it's gonna be an extra 5 thanks to that gift energy. Oliver down to 1 boss's orders, and I'm not seeing any way to counter that Mesagosa. There's no. Oh, there is 1 Lost Vacuum. Temple of Sinnoh is still in the prices, but Lost Vacuum is another piece we might want. Deny that Mesagosa and make Oliver really work for that boss's orders to potentially win the match.
Absolutely. Boss's orders or Fortin might be able to help us out as well. We did take the Cinccino to hand. I don't know if we managed to get the Minccino. No, it's still in the prize cards. Okay. Let's have a looky which Pokemon Andreas is going to activate next. We've got the 2 Dracloaks still to go. We can look at 2 cards, put 1 into hand and 1 to the bottom of the deck. And we can do that per Dracloak. So we've got 1 more to go yet. Going ahead, we're trying again. We're going another Duskull, surely at some point. I don't know if it'd be very wise to activate 1 at this point, but what's the harm in putting it down? The Dracloak could be taken out by Iron Hands regardless if it sticks around, which it's going to for at least 1 more turn if we target that Regigigas, which is really, really posing a huge threat to the entire outcome of the game at this point.
Yep. Gonna have to see what we commit to. I wish I could see Oliver's 2 cards in hand. Maybe he already has game in hand and he's just waiting patiently, but counter catcher is right there.
Yeah, Oliver's 2 cards in hand are not what he wants. I can tell you that. I did take a sneak peek. 1 is an energy, and I think the other was a supporter, but it wasn't quite what we wanted. Okay, yeah, we've gone ahead and we've counter captured.
We're gonna get some help from that gift energy, though. Where do we place the damage counters? Perhaps on the Archeops, perhaps piling them up on Luminion. Can't place them on the Iron Hands thanks to that missed energy.
Okay, the other damage counters are going on that Lugia V-Star as we just figure out where those are gonna sit. Some contemplating going on while the damage counters are still being set. Okay, some on the Luminion as well, just soften that up a little bit more as well, and Oliver's going to draw those other cards, and we'll see if any of them help us along the way to really close this match out.
And it's amazing that we get to draw those cards before we even need to commit to a promotion. I think I saw an Ultra Ball, Amy.
I'm pretty sure I saw an Ultra Ball, and then we can get the Luminion, and we can boss for the game. Iron Hands taking all of the prize cards in this match. My word.
Thank you very much 3 times. Seems like a pretty good deal, right?
You know what? I think it does. And it's exactly what decks like Miraidon try and do as well. Of course, we're just double checking there using our Archeops. Ultra Ball there for the Luminion. Take the boss's orders. And we're going to take 3 Duskull with the Iron Hands. Thank you very much for game 1. Oliver takes the lead.
Who cares about Dragapult when you can just KO Duskull over and over and over? That amp you very much attack so powerful. We were talking about how the prizes would affect the Minccino and the Ogerpon. Turns out it was all about Iron Hands this time around.
It was all about Iron Hands. Talk about a handy card. One of the most ferocious 2 prize Pokemon in our format against those little single prize Pokemon with fewer than 120 HP. Am I right? Oh, wow. That was certainly a battle. Oliver took a really defensive start and made every move count. That gift energy really giving us all that it was worth. And that just goes to show how some preemptive thinking can go a long way. Putting that gift energy on what Oliver knew was going to be the target. Let's take a look again.
First amp you very much of the game, taking down that Duskull, protecting his own Archeops, taking down that Duskull a second time after it was recovered. And then we did see Andres respawn, take down the Regigigas, which threatened the Dragapult, but that gift energy, Amy, just way too powerful and gifted that Luminion boss for that poor Duskull. Went with his friend to the discard pile.
My word. Duskull after Duskull after Duskull. Iron Hands really must like seeing those see the bench. And Oliver went for the Duskull rather than a Dracloak. Just goes to show that he clearly knows
Yeah.
which one deserves the thank you very much.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, usually you could argue that, okay, I'm going to take down the Dracloak. That likely becomes a Dragapult. I don't want my opponent to get Dragapult. But if they can't get Dragapult and Dusknoir, that could be worse for you. So if you deny the Dusknoir, even if they get the Dragapult, you can deal with that eventually. So really well done there by Oliver, prioritizing what he deemed the threat. And I would love to see Andres try to adapt here and try to always have 2 Duskull down so that he can access the Dusknoir at some point in the game.
Absolutely. I've got a couple of fun facts for you. Andreas was actually short of multiple top 8s this season and finally broke the curse. So if he goes all the way, this could have just been what he needed. And as for Oliver, he actually wanted to bring Hydreigon to this event, but his mum defeated him so many times in testing that he decided not to bring it after all. And I bet he's glad he did. Yeah, put those dragons down and now facing other dragons in the finals. Can you believe it?
I'm sure Andrea's very happy that this is the tournament that he got his break, right? He's in the finals. He's 1 game down, but he's already made it all this way. I'm sure if anyone can turn this around, it's him.
Absolutely. And like we say, undefeated into Lugia in best of 3 thus far. So we know he's got the skills to pull it off. Let's see if this game 2 can be a little bit different and whether that tussle is a little bit fairer.
Right, both players are getting set up here. I have to imagine Andres will choose to go second, even though Lugia wants to go first. Most of the time, just having a turn to play an item and to be able to search for those Dreepies with the buffins and potentially find technical machine evolution could be key, but Andres has another plan. Unfortunately, starts the Illuminion, but will get that body puffin to get going.
Absolutely. And just as Andreas checks the cards, let's take a look at the prize cards. Not looking too hot for Andreas with both Crispin in the prize cards, Super Rod, and the one of Dusknoir and a rare candy. That's not looking too hot to me.
That's definitely not ideal.
But also Oliver starting with the Squawkabilly with only 160 HP can really easily be KO'd by a Dragapult. So Andreas going ahead and attaching an energy to that Luminion, knowing that it's going to need to retreat at some point soon. 2 Dreepy on the bench so far is a lovely start, but I don't know if we're going to be able to go much further than this, and it might just be a pass.
I wonder if Andres took note there that he has no access to Crispin, and he's just really prioritizing having the option to attach 4 Seal Stone to Illuminion instead of having to attach that rescue board to retreat. But we'll have to see. Now, Oliver, we talked about this in the beginning. The starting setup for both players will determine, right? And Oliver had a flawless setup last game. Can he do it back-to-back games, Amy?
Hopefully he can, but there is that Minccino again, really punishing Oliver for what our locals call the optimum Cinccino line. I've got to say, that is really adding insult to injury. But other than that, the prizes are looking a-okay with that Blood Moon Saluna being quite early on in the prizes. You only want it late game anyway. That feels like the perfect spot for an Ursaluna in my eyes.
Absolutely. The one energy you might really not want to prize is that Legacy energy, right? You play multiple copies of all the other energies, and since these Lugia decks are playing so many energies anyways, you have to expect that you're always going to have at least 1 or 2 prize, right? So this balance of prizes is definitely way better for Oliver than for Andreas, but yeah, let's not count anyone out now. That Minccino, though, I do want to touch upon it. There's usually a 1 in 10 chance of prizing any given card, right?
Absolutely.
So in a best of 3, it's like, okay, it happened once, it probably won't happen in the other 2 games. However, here we are with that 1 in 10 chance multiplying. Now we're seeing a 1 in 100 situation at this point.
Absolutely, and that's just variance.
Yeah.
It's going to happen at some point. So here we are in the finals of the juniors of the European International Championships 2025 with a 1 in 100 prize card.
And I would love to know what's running through Oliver's mind right now, because like, are you frustrated at the Minccino? You're like, oh, well, I don't have that. Like, how does he deal with that, perhaps, inflection point in terms of like, okay, that could be a very key card. I don't have access to it. I don't know when I'll have access to it. So how do I adapt to this situation?
I think personally the nice thing about Lugia is its flexibility. The scary part is the setup. And once you're past that hurdle, it does feel a little bit easier. You're like, okay, I've done that. Now everything else is flexible. We've assessed that Regigigas is one of the other really high HP attackers. Going for the Luminion for the Jacques. Oh, because yeah, absolutely, we can Squawk and seize this hand because Squawkabilly was our starting card, meaning that we're going to see that flawless setup again. We did have to use more support Pokemon this time round, but we are going to see it, Pablo.
Amazing here for Oliver. I think this is something that you just mentioned, like having too many set of Pokemon can be counterintuitive, can come back to bite you later down the line, but perhaps those people that think, oh no, if I hadn't benched that Lumineer, if I hadn't used Squawkabilly, I wouldn't have lost that game. It's like perhaps you wouldn't have gotten to the point in the late game without those support Pokemon, right?
Absolutely.
So sometimes you just have to play them, go for it, and make sure that your aggression and your setup is so powerful that your opponent can't even focus on that and has to deal with your threats.
That's the thing. You need to guarantee your own setup over everything. Oliver doesn't know what's in Andrea's hand right now. It could be nothing. Andrea's really couldn't do anything. So it's better to focus on what you're doing than what your opponent is doing, especially in a matchup like Lugia. You just need to focus on that setup. The 2 Archeops in the discard pile and the Lugia V on the bench are the most important things, hands down. It is paramount.
We're seeing double capturing Aroma coin flips, first tails grabbing that Wellspring Ogerpon to threaten any Dreepies or Duskulls on the bench and multiple prizes, and then we're gonna go ahead and grab yet another Archeops. We already have the Lugia V-Star in hand. Can't ask for better for Oliver at this point, I don't think.
Not at all. And knowing that the threat of an Iono might be on the way, don't really want to take anything else than an Archeops. We'll thin it from the deck, absolutely, because then if Oliver does get Iono'd, at least that Archeops that we don't need is on the bottom of the deck.
And we even have the Jet Energy.
Oh, wow.
Immediately bring up the Lugia to the active and read the win for an extra 3 cards. 3 Archeops in the discard pile on turn 1. That's every Lugia player's dream.
It's so windy in here, everyone. We've got 3 Archeops, 4 Archeops, in fact, I think that was, in the discard pile already at the beginning of the game. Cards that we just don't want in the deck anymore because we don't want to draw it off the top. It's a useless card from this point on. We don't need it. Brilliant setup from Oliver, really couldn't be any better. Hopefully Andreas will be able to respond and give us a real gritty battle now.
With no Duskull in play, that Lugia is completely protected. There's no way for Andreas to deal 220 damage. Can get to 200, right, with that Phantom Dive, start piling on the damage counters on the bench, but very well calculated by Oliver. You can see why he's undefeated so far in this matchup, and that Technical Machine Evolution is probably a good indicator that Andreas' hand is not quite up to par.
Absolutely, and also assessing that they're not probably going to get a super meaningful knockout right now with not being able to gust either of the benched Pokemon who can get 1-hit KO'd by a Dragapult. So Andreas going for the safe bet right now of making sure his Pokemon actually evolve. They need to get off the mark. These Dreepy need to get bigger.
They really do. We needed them bigger 1 turn earlier, but we're gonna see another Ultra Ball keeping that Technical Machine Evolution. No Roxanne, no Dusclops. The other one is Prize, so that Duskull might even just be a distraction. Andreas probably aware at this point that one Candy's Prize, the other Dusclops not available, the Dusknoir is not available, so probably trying to be like, okay, yeah, here's the Duskull that you really don't want to see, because I really need to start getting my Dragapult set up and ready to go at the latest next turn. Now, if you're Oliver, which do you pick? You have both Iron Hands and Wellspring Ogerpon in your hand right now. Do you have a boss's orders to take down a Dracloak and the Duskull perhaps, or do you go for the 3 prize cards on the active Luminion?
I think it's a really difficult choice, honestly. I'm not sure which one I'd go for personally, but considering the Andreas kind of whole strategy at this point with making sure that his card draw is sustainable is those Dracloak, I would be tempted to say I would go for Wellspring Ogerpon here. Knowing the Luminion's probably staying in play as well, that gives you late game flexibility. Thornton is in the discard pile, so we will have to pick one and stick with it this game.
All right, Andreas will go ahead and use that Technical Machine Evolution, get the 2 Dracloaks into play, and has an Iono, and has a Dragapult already ready to go. Now, we do know, however, that both Crispins are in the prize card, so Andres might want to hold off on that Iono and try to find an Arven to establish the Sparkling Crystal. However, only choosing to evolve one Dracloak, maybe he missed that the other Dusclops was prized. I didn't notice which two Pokemon he signaled for the Technical Machine Evolution, Amy.
No, I didn't either. So when you use Technical Machine Evolution, you do have to signal before you check your deck to your opponent which two Pokemon you've selected for evolution. So if Andreas did select the Duskull, obviously that means he would fail that evolution as it's not in the deck. So that might have been what happened there, because you're right, I didn't catch which one he signaled. So Oliver's gone ahead and made that Lugia V-Star, and we've gone for Iron Hands. I think we're going to have a repeat of game one here. We're going to be amping you very much. There we go, Summoning Star for two Archeops, going for the first, my word, first Archeops of game two. Andreas, I like the call of putting Duskull down as like a distraction. Andreas knows that Oliver likes to go for those, so I don't dislike the Duskull on the bench right now. I think that's really clever, regardless of it not being able to evolve, unfortunately.
Such a stark contrast between Oliver's setup and Andreas. I feel like we're seeing Oliver running on full steam ahead and Andreas barely trying to hold on. No Boss's Orders this time around to combine with this Ampu very much. But Oliver at this point, 3 prize cards ahead. This game is looking better and better for him each turn.
It really is. It is looking absolutely petrifying for Andreas. I wouldn't want to be staring down at that Iron Hands right now. 3 prize cards. Wow. And Iron Hands currently only counting as a single prize Pokemon. If Andreas does manage to deal with it, unfortunately, it will only grant 1 prize card in return. So his prize race is really going off to a great start for Oliver, taking 3 prize cards, and good prize cards are they.
Great top deck for Andreas, though. That Arven means now we definitely can get that Counter Catcher plus the Sparkling Crystal guaranteed and take down perhaps an Archeops. By taking down an Archeops, we potentially protect our Dragapult from a Regigigas follow-up to this, but that Iron Hands, of course, still very menacing. And if we play Arven, Oliver has a pretty huge hand, and we know that there's at least 1 Boss's Orders right there.
Absolutely. So there is still a chance of a comeback. The game is not over yet. It's only just begun. Honestly, no. We do have the Iono coming down, a great opportunity for a bit of disruption. Oliver took 3 prize cards, so he'll only get 3 cards from this Iono, and Andreas will get a full 6. So if there's anything that's going to stop Oliver at this point, it's going to be some heavy disruption.
Now, can Andreas find the Fire Energy? I see the Fire Energy immediately right there. That's very good news. We get the other Dracloak that we weren't able to find with that Technical Machine Evolution. I do believe we still have 2 Recon Directives to go, which is great, great news. Now, if Andreas is going to make a comeback, this is how.
Absolutely. If Andreas can establish some big Pokemon with huge HP, right now Oliver has nothing that can cope with that and a full bench. So if Andreas can come back, it's going to be by establishing this Dragapult and really making it work.
Flip the script gonna come online after those 3 prizes were taken. Andreas' hand will now be quite big after the Iono, so looking pretty good here.
Yeah, looking really nice. We've got the Forest Sealstone we can bank for later. Multiple energy to keep us going, which we've established could have been a problem in this game, but not looking like it's going to phase Andreas on this occasion. Other than that, I'm not seeing what else. We've got the, we've got the Night Stretcher and an Ultra Ball. We're going. And if we can establish a Sparkling Crystal, then this is going to be nice. We're going to get some really consistent gameplay, but I'm not sure if I'm Andreas, which Pokemon I'd be targeting first.
Now this, getting the Luminion into play again to utilize that Forest Sealstone to find that either a counter catcher or something along those lines, like that would open up the possibility for Oliver to just win by knocking out that Luminion again. So I don't know if Andreas should be using it here. I think holding off for 1 turn, hitting into this Iron Hands and trying to appease the Temple of Sinnoh plus an Iono plus a counter catcher, that could be a game-winning play and a way to make a comeback in this match.
Absolutely. As we said, it's very far from over, and some clever plays from Andreas could really make all of the difference here. So we're getting that fire energy attached, so we're going to be able to start going with our Dragapult's Phantom Dive. 5 attack for 200 damage to the active Pokemon and 6 damage counters across Oliver's bench.
Right. Where do you place?
I like having the gift energy not proc at this time. Really nice as well. Putting Oliver down to 3 cards and choosing not to take a knockout actually benefits Andreas in this scenario. Biding his time and waiting. And we saw Natalie do that yesterday in the Masters division to great success. And so if Andreas can emulate that and choose when to take his knockouts to benefit him, that is going to be a game-winning strategy.
Oh, certainly. Not opening up a bench space. So cool. We saw it multiple times throughout both days of the tournament. That way your opponent doesn't get access to Aluminium for a boss, or doesn't get access to our Regigigas to deal with your Dragapult. So even though Andreas had the possibility to get the Aluminium back and play that Forest Seal Stone, choosing not to do it, choosing to be very patient, because right now that Ampy very much against the Dragapult is actually not as impactful as Oliver would like it to be. And one boss did go to the bottom of the deck. There's no way to search for one with Luminion, so if you don't have it in your hand, can't cost and take 2 prizes this turn.
Absolutely, and although Lugia does play 4 copies of Boss's Orders, it doesn't look like Oliver's got it in hand. Looks like it might just be an Ampu very much for this turn. Wow, 120 damage. Doesn't really do much to 320 HP's worth of Dragapult.
This is the first time we've seen Oliver attack with Iron Hands and not take 2 prizes, which is really, really saying something. Yeah, 2 or at least 2 prizes. Now, Andreas can now appease a much more powerful option here by grabbing that Luminion, getting that Temple of Sinnoh with the Forest Seal Stone, playing that Iono once again. I mean, perhaps you don't need to disrupt right now. Going for Counter Catcher, super key. But the key card here is Temple of Sinnoh. That's what we really need. And finding it, it's really only available with Luminion. But if we knock out the Iron Hands now, Luminion will not be giving 3 prize cards anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. It won't be giving 3 prize cards up. And, you know, that gift energy also won't work. And the A spec won't work either. So Iron Hands would count for the full 2 prize cards that Andreas would definitely deserve for finally overcoming that huge Iron Hands, which has been such a thorn in his side this entire battle, making sure that legacy energy isn't putting anything in between him and his prize cards would be fantastic.
There's the Luminion, there's the Luminous Sign. Pretty well planned here by Andreas. And yeah, that Temple of Sinnoh is doing work ×3, right? It's shutting down the gift, it's shutting down the mist, so damage counters can be placed, and it's shutting down the legacy. So many things going well now for Andreas. Gonna grab the Iono, not playing it yet. I imagine we want to at the very least attach that Forest Seal Stone, see what we get, because we do need 2 pieces this turn, I think. Counter Catcher, KO Archeops, and place the damage counters on the Iron Hands. That way there is no possibility of a Regigigas later down the line. But with 200 HP remaining, Lugia can take down the Dragapult next.
It's very true, and that would leave Oliver on 1 prize card, so Andreas still has a mountain to climb. But if anyone can do it, it is this soon-to-be possible champion Andreas, who is piloting Dragapult flawlessly thus far.
Right, I think I see a Narvin. I would love to see Andreas guarantee that Sparkling Crystal. He did Iono last turn. You know your opponent's hand might not be as spectacular, right? So you don't need to disrupt again. We're going to see that 6 brand new cards, though, which are always helpful, though.
Absolutely. 6 new cards are great, but knowing that Oliver didn't have the boss, giving him the option of more cards can be really risky.
All right, 6 new cards. I didn't see too much help. They'd put 1 card at the top. All right, it seems like it is the Counter Catcher, so at least that's one of the pieces. But
here we are. There's that famous Temple of Sinnoh, turning off the effects of Oliver's special energy. They will all count as basic colorless energy from here on in. As long as that temple stays in play, then there we go, brilliant. Then all of those energy are just colorless energy as far as anyone is concerned now.
All right, there's the counter catcher going for prizes though, putting himself in a situation where one more boss's orders knocking out the squawk ability would win him the game. And he's going to take 4 prizes this turn. He knows Rare Candy, Dusknor, and Dusclops, and even Crispin are prized. So this could be how Andreas wins the game with only 2 more attacks, this one and the next.
Here we go. This is the comeback, taking 4 prize cards in one turn using Dragapult EX. 200 damage to that active Luminion, and then finishing up the rather squishy Iron Hands on the bench for a colossal knockout.
Amazingly done by Andreas, piecing out that potential comeback. Now I do see an Ultra Ball and a Boss's Orders in Oliver's hand, so if Oliver takes 2 prize cards this turn, Dusknor will not be available to win the game against that squawk ability. I guess you could use it and then take us to a tiebreaker game.
Oh my goodness, wouldn't that be absolutely magical? I don't think I've seen a tiebreaker game in a finals in quite a long time. But let's see how this irons out without that Iron Hands. We're going to head and, attaching our first energy and using Archeops to get some more for our Lugia. But we're going to need more than the double turbo energy if we're going to make it, because Temple of Sinnoh means that energy is only counting as 1 right now. So Oliver does not actually. Oh, is there 3 energy or 4? It looks like
I think there's only 3 energy.
I think there's only 3 as well.
And so yeah, Oliver is attacking, choosing to discard Temple, but Oliver does not have enough energy. The attack has been declared, so.
There's another. Oh no, the other Primal Turbo was still available, so looks like we've been able to attach an energy with Primal Turbo before declaring an attack.
All right, it looked like it had been, but there we go.
There we are. We can't hear them. Just so that we know, we can't hear what's going on the table. So we managed to get the knockout on that Duskull for 1 more prize card, leaving the squishy Dragapult ready for taking later.
Prizes are tied. Counter catcher is not live. I think the boss's orders was put at the bottom of the deck after that Iono. So Andreas needs a way to shuffle the deck and needs to find that boss's orders to take down the squawk ability for game. Otherwise, the game will continue at this point because Oliver very smartly targeted that Duskull.
I like the Duskull play because although it may not have been a threat if Oliver had taken 2 prize cards, it's also not a threat if you just take it down. And it means that Andreas can't use counter catcher because he evens the prize race. So not getting too excited and going ahead is what is bringing Oliver to this finals, I imagine.
Yeah, that very calculated decision. You don't always have to take the maximum amount of prize cards you can each turn, right? Especially with those combat cards like counter catcher, like Iono, like Roxanne. Always important to keep the prize count in mind, not just the amount of prizes that you're taking with your attack.
Absolutely. Oliver knows he can take 2 prize cards next turn. Leaving this Dragapult with 200 HP has really helped him with that. But something he can control is when he takes his prize cards. We just need to take 6 in total to win. It's 4 all currently, and either side could piece together a victory. I think it's just a little bit of a discussion going on there, but we will see exactly what's going on.
Yeah, I think the judges are talking to the kids right now, so hopefully we get an update soon. All right, we are going to see the flip the script. We are going to find 2 cards to shuffle the deck because that boss's orders is at the very bottom of the deck, Amy.
Absolutely, and using cards just to shuffle your deck can be a really awesome strategy, especially with Iono being so prevalent. So we're going ahead and using Earthen Vessel to get 2 energy, but also shuffling the deck is fantastic because we still have Ardra Cloak, so we can recon Directive. Andreas is choosing to go for a Buddy Poffin, hoping to thin the deck a little further. Getting Badoo out for the first time in this best of 3.
Definitely hasn't. There's been a lack of pollen in this finals match in particular. I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot more of this Padu later down the line. But now it all comes down to this recon directive. Can Andreas find the boss's orders off of the Drakloak to win the game this turn?
Let's have a look. There's an oven and a sparkling crystal, I think.
No.
That's not quite going to be enough. We've already used our V-Star. Is there any other option? It doesn't look like there's a boss in hand. I think this could be it.
There's no boss in hand, so now it comes down to, does Oliver have a boss's orders in hand? And he did use one last turn to knock out Duskull, right? There it is at the very top of his discard pile. So does he have an Ultra Ball or a way to access a boss's orders this upcoming turn? Because now Andres doesn't even have a way to disrupt Oliver's hand. I think it all comes down to that Iono last turn, Amy, which put the boss at the bottom.
It really does. Andreas going for an attach for turn on the bench. Dragapult. Oliver staring down at this Dragapult. Lugia V-Star still has enough HP that Dragapult can't one-hit KO it right now. So Lugia would survive and continue to reign on. Oh my gosh, if I'm Andreas, I'm possibly wanting to move that Dragapult.
I think you actually don't even need a boss's orders. If you have a Nest Ball or an Ultra Ball for Regigigas could take down the healthy Dragapult if Andres retreats into that. Now, we're going to be grabbing the counter catcher, but because Duskull is no longer there, or because two prizes were not taken, that card cannot be played right now.
No, so it's just a case of thinning the deck a little bit more, making it easier for Andreas if he does manage to get through this turn, but it's not looking too hot. We're going to retreat that Dragapult into the healthy Dragapult, making it much harder for Oliver because he is going to need to string together that combo with our Regigigas in order to take the victory now. But I believe you saw an Ultra Ball in the hand, Pablo.
There an Ultra Ball or an Nest Ball. I think there is one, so it could be a boss, could be a Regigigas, and Oliver could be getting closer to becoming the European International Champion.
This is so tense. Andreas just taking every moment to assess the situation, make sure that he's done everything in his power to set himself up for success. We see the Phantom Dive, 200 damage on Lugia, and now Andreas' job is to choose which damage out of the 6 is going to go onto the benched Pokemon and exactly where all of that's going to sit. We're going to put it all on the Squawkabilly. Oliver draws for turn.
Okay, he's not even, there's the boss, there's the Luminion, so he has an Ultra Ball in hand. There it is.
Oh my gosh. It all has to come together. Luminion for boss, the bench, Dragapult, and Oliver is your Euic Juniors champion.
What an amazing game for both players. Andres was so close to making an amazing comeback. But Oliver, with those perfect setups in back-to-back games, piecing everything out perfectly, not activating counter catcher. If you told me this was the Masters Finals, I would have believed you, Amy. What an amazing match we just saw. Look at how happy Oliver is.
I'm crying. I'm so happy.
Oh, Amy.
I'm so happy for him. I can't believe it.
This is amazing. Both players played amazingly. I loved seeing this game, and Andreas was so close to taking us to a game 3. Never had access to that crucial dust around those prizes in game 2. Really played against him, but amazingly well done by both players. Let's take a look at what happened in the series. That poor Duskull kept hitting the discard ball over and over and over.
That Duskull really got bullied, the poor little thing. He didn't deserve that, but in the second game, of course, we saw that unfortunately Duskull wasn't too useful. But as we carried on, Ampu very muching those Duskull, obviously assessing the threat correctly there, and Oliver just managed to take all prize cards seamlessly.
And now I know we did talk about the Ampu very much, the prizes, the attacks by Lugia, but I want to say in game 2, it was all about Squawkabilly and Luminion, the combination of both Pokemon being able to find the Jack for the double Arceus and immediately discard them with the Squawkabilly, that was amazing. And then the Temple of Sinnoh almost gave Andres the perfect comeback possibility. Unfortunately, though, it just wasn't quite enough.
It really wasn't. Unfortunately, Lugia's attack has that secondary effect of being able to discard a stadium. So it stuck around long enough to deal with the Iron Hands, but not long enough for Oliver not to take an impressive win.
What an amazing game. And now...
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the big stage here at EUIC. I'm Adam Watson, joined by your champion, Oliver Cahill. Give it up, folks. Let's hear it. Lugia V-Star. A deck that nobody was really thinking of. It was too much Miraidon, too much Dragapult, but what was the decision process to settle on this deck?
Basically, after Miraidon won, we thought that lots of juniors don't really play it. And if they do, there'll be people from our locals which we think we know how to work a matchup.
So you had a lot of training and practice just from your local competitive scene, and you used that to predict the meta. Now that you've got this gigantic win, what's the first thing on your mind? What's the first thing you're gonna do?
Just celebrate with my family.
I love to hear that. Another big round of applause for him, folks. So Oliver can celebrate with his locals and his family. Any final thoughts or shout outs I can get from you before I let you go to celebrate your big win?
I'd like to shout out my friends, my locals, and my family for helping me to get to this point.
Brilliant. Well said. Once more for Oliver Cahill, your EUIC champion. We're going to kick things back to the cast and guests and get our next batch of matches underway.
Thank you so much, Adam, and well done, Oliver. We're all so proud. No matter the result, everyone is a champion in our eyes. I am so thrilled, but no matter what, even if Andreas had have won, I'd have been just utterly flabbergasted at such a fantastic result. Played it very well. We're all really proud.
I know, they both played so well. Oliver didn't miss a beat. Andres fell just a little bit behind. Had to play from behind both games. Almost made the perfect comeback. That recon directive for a boss orders would have been so epic to see.
It really would have. It would have been awesome for it to have gone to a game 3.
Yeah.
They were both very talented players, and it would have been really awesome to have seen some more. But we are going to get to see some more Dragapult. Don't worry, Pablo. We're going to have a look at the seniors bracket now as we move on to crown our next champ.
Yep, we have our finalists, Gabriel Fernandez, a stranger to the finals against Nathan Ostercats, but they did have to go through quite a crowd of talented players. Gabriel defeated Tristan, then defeated Kingsley to make it to the finals, and Nathan defeated Omar and Pedro in order to get here.
Absolutely, a very tough set of opponents, but as you said, Gabriel is no stranger to this circuit. 2-0ing both opponents there, where Nathan certainly had more of a struggle, but against some really amazing competitors. So you know what? I'm not surprised.
Yeah, both players are fantastic. They have multiple wins to their name, I do believe. Nathan won last year's NAIC, if I'm not mistaken. Gabriel has been a world champion and multiple IC and regional winner, as well as Nathan. So both players are essentially the final boss of seniors. I think whoever comes out here as the winner could really say, like, they're on top of the world.
I very much agree. And again, I'm very, very nervous of them coming into the Masters bracket. I can envisage me pairing one of them one day at an event and just be like, oh no, not you.
Yeah, of course, sure.
Both absolute champions already, but who's going to come out on top as our Pokemon International Championships Europe for 2025?
Now, Amy, I'm going to make a bold prediction and say that Dragapult is going to win this one.
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, I think Dracloak is going to win. I think
right.
Dracloak is going to take the final knockout. I don't know how that would happen, but I just want to be different, Pablo.
I mean, speaking of different, both of these players' lists are actually, despite being Dragapult decks, there are actually some significant differences, and especially over on Gabriel's side, there are quite a few innovations. There's a Defiance Vest, which is played as a tech card, makes the Dragapult that little bit sturdier, makes it survive perhaps an extra turn, but very crucially makes it survive that Regigiga's attack. So it's not going to factor into here for that specific situation, but minus 40 damage even protects something like Luminion from getting KO'd by a Phantom Dive.
So true, and you know, both of these players are experts at their craft. They've been testing a lot online, both having met as well at many, many events. And those testing moments online against lots of masters has helped them to refine these lists and make those interesting decisions about new cards.
Oh, certainly. These two players, I think, play online so much. And here they are, their accolades: Gabriel Fernandez, Yokohama World Champion, Honolulu World's Top 4, Sao Paulo LAIC Champion, and London EUIC Champion, whilst Nathan Osterkat, Sacramento Regional Champion this season, New Orleans NAIC Champion last season, Columbus NAIC Junior Champion, and Frankfurt EUIC Junior Champion. So both players coming from the juniors division, now top senior division players as well, and you have to expect that when they hit masters, they're going to be just as good.
Absolutely. You don't get to Yokohama World Champion without being quite the fantastic player, regardless of bracket. And NAIC champion, junior finalist from Frankfurt, Nathan and Gabriel have both been playing for many years now, and both absolute champions of their craft. You can see these two have fantastic accolades. This is a battle of titans.
Now, aside from their results, though, we can talk about their decks. As we can see, Nathan has a more traditional Dragapult deck featuring Dosmer, just as we saw from Andreas in the junior division. I'm not seeing anything too surprising in his list, other than the lack of Crispin, which I think is becoming a bit standard. However, over on Gabriel's side, there is no Dosmer, so no extra damage counters through Cursed Blast. There's going to be a bit more focus on Bodyu. There's also Klefki as an option to slow down any Rotom draw or any Luminion use, or even the flip the script. However, Monkey Dory is making an appearance, so there is a copy of a Darkness Energy, and Monkey Dory could actually make Nathan's damage counters from Phantom Dive work against him.
Absolutely. So these decks are built very differently, both starring Dragapult as a primary attacking Pokemon, but actually when you look into the nitty-gritty of it, these are so different that this battle could really be a tussle. We've got Pokemon that disrupt so much in Gabriel's list. Will Nathan be able to overcome it with the extra damage? So this is kind of a battle between an offensive and a defensive stance with Dragapult, and I think that's what's going to make this a really entertaining battle.
Oh, for sure. And both players have played against each other at this very tournament already. I do believe Nathan was able to defeat Gabriel, so I don't know if that will sort of play some mind games into this. Nathan, will he be overconfident? Will nerves start piling up for Gabriel, or are both players just completely locked in? They've been here before, they've been against a top opponent before, and I don't know, they both seem like very calm. Once again, as if this was just another day in the office for them.
I think for these two, it very well feels like that. They probably test together, and, you know, this is probably an online occurrence quite often. So this time it's on a big stage, but normally I imagine this is done from the comfort of their own homes. So I'm sure that us and the crowd can make them feel very welcome, as well as we cheer on these fantastic competitors. Let's check out those prize cards, Pablo.
Goodness gracious, immediately both players having rough prizes. We see the Darkness Energy prize for Gabriel, so Monkey Dory will likely see no use whatsoever in this match. And over on Nathan's side, that Dusknoir, there's only one copy of that in his list, so we're not going to be seeing a lot of Curse Blast, so we might be seeing just a pure Dragapult on Dragapult battle with Dreepies flying all over the place, Amy.
It very well might be that way, but I'm sure both of these players have tricks up their sleeves galore, and I can't wait to see how they get around the various hurdles they're going to put in front of one another. But there we see the Houndshake, and here we go! The battle begins!
We are getting started. Seems like Nathan is going first. I don't know if he chose to go first or if Gabriel won the coin flip and chose to go second. The starting 3P, starting Body Body Puff, and in the end, in a mirror such as this one, you don't mind being the one to evolve first, but that Badu being in the active spot right now does mean that Nathan has no possibility to get to a turn 2 Dragapult. So he's gonna have to do it the more traditional way, having to evolve through the Drag Cloaks.
I think that's the nice thing about the Badu maybe being in the active to begin with, though. Nathan knows that he's going to have to make the use of his item cards now. It's now or never, or at very least until Badu stops being so irritating with that itchy pollen. So looking through the deck with our first Buddy Poffin, searching 2 basic Pokemon with 70 HP or less and placing them on our bench. We've gone for a Duskull and a Dreepy and straight in with the Earthen Vessel, discarding another item card in the switch. Again, knowing that Badu is going to lock that option away ever so soon. So absolutely 1 Psychic and 1 Fire type energy for Nathan to get started with those energy attachments as well, knowing that Gabriel won't be able to attack on the first turn either.
Having that 1 copy of Earthen Vessel in hand, honestly quite fortunate for Nathan. Attaching energy each turn when you only play 6 can be a little difficult. Neither player has access to Crispin throughout this game, so every energy will count for so much.
Absolutely. If anyone misses a beat in this battle, that's when the tide will change, and the tide of battle with that. So a Buddy Poffin as well as the first action on Gabriel's turn. Who would have thunk it?
Evening up things in terms of setup. Now, no Badu inside for Nathan, and if Gabriel attacks with that itchy pollen, even finding Badu to counteract your opponent's Badu will be quite difficult with not being able to play Buddy Puffin, not being able to play Nest Ball. Now, you called it, Amy. We might see Dracloak take the first prize card here against that Badu.
Oh my goodness. Well. Look how the turns have tabled. Wow. We could see Dracloak make a meaningful attack. Who could have called it? Oh, goodness. Well, Badu might put in lots of work here, though, because like you say, Nathan's going to have to take the slow route, and Gabriel probably doesn't quite mind that.
Yep, not going to mind that too much. It would leave Nathan a little bit exposed, right? Both energies in the active spot, only to take a single prize card. If Gabriel was able to respond to that with his own Dragapult and eliminate those energies, that would definitely put him in the lead. Now, both players know about each other's deck list. I'm sure Nathan, over the course of the games in Swiss rounds, probably has knowledge on the Monkey Dury, probably has knowledge on the Blood Moon or Saloon as well. So it's something that he might consider when going into the later stages of the game. But eventually he's going to realize that both cards are unavailable for Gabriel, the Darkness Energy and the Blood Moon or Saluna.
Absolutely. There'll be a point where those kind of mind games, that mental tug of war really comes into effect, where Nathan realizes, oh my gosh, Gabriel must not have access to those. That's great. I can be a bit riskier with my plays and kind of take chances, which is how you get to a stage like that.
Yeah, Gabriel already knows that and will play with that information, but Nathan is not able to know that until, I mean, he might never figure it out. At some point, I'm sure he will have that intuition. But another Buddy Puffin here for Gabriel. I think we're going to see all 4 Dreepy hit the board. Never mind, it's just going to be 3.
Just 3. That's how the Masters do it. That's how they do it. But no, 2 Buddy Puffin, you really could not ask for more. That is exactly what we want to see in an opening hand for a deck like Dragapult, where pretty much all of your Pokemon need to evolve to be effective. Going in with our Arven, finally with our first supporter of this best of 3. Oh, revealing that Defiance Vest really nice and early, and an Earthen Vessel for the energy.
Now, if Gabriel eventually, not in this game, but in other games, has access to that Monkey Dury, the Defiance Band reducing the Phantom Dive damage from 200 to 160, and then using Monkey Dury to essentially heal your Dragapult by 30 damage would allow, no, it doesn't allow. No, it would allow Dragapult DX to survive 2 attacks. So if your Dragapult is 2-hit KOing your opponent's Dragapult, but their Dragapult is 3-hit KOing yours, you will definitely gain an advantage right there.
That is huge, and a huge compliment to Pokemon Mathematics, and maybe why this, maybe why they've got this far in the tournament as well.
Now, we're not going to see that this game, as the Defiance Best was the card to hit the discard pile to get energies into play, but you can see how both players really prioritizing attaching that energy, and it seems like Nathan might not fully commit to attacking and KOing that Badoo, will decide to evolve that Dracloak on the bench and utilize its ability. It's not poisoned, right? It can't be poisoned on the bench. It's just marking that his ability has been used.
Absolutely. Recon Directive being one of the most impactful abilities in our meta, especially for this finals. Being able to look at those top 2 cards of the deck, choose one to put in your hand and one to the bottom, just gives real flexibility to the deck. Going for the another attach on the Dreeby and attacking using Bite for 40 damage, chomping down on our buddy Badoo, and taking that out. So items will be available next turn for Nathan.
I love the spread of resources by Nathan. Commits the evolution to the bench, commits the energies to the active, and tells Gabriel, okay, if you knock out my energies, at least I get to keep my stage 1, and I can still attach an energy and the Sparkling Crystal and start using Phantom Dive. Now, in response, we're going to see lands for triple Dracloak, which is a solid indicator that perhaps Gabriel doesn't already have the pieces to get to the Dragapult, but wow, what a turn on first stamp. Triple Dracloak, Pheasantipity to flip the script. What a turn.
Wow, that was rapid, evolving all the Dreepy into Dracloak. Oh my gosh, and then using Unfair Stamp because Nathan kind of, I guess, took the bait of knocking out that Badoo, knowing that items need to be online to make some progress. Obviously, Gabriel was then able to respond, putting Nathan down to just 2 cards in hand, and Nathan only has 1 Dracloak to help with card draw next turn. So Gabriel has just filled that bench with useful Pokemon like Radiant Alakazam and Pheasantipity, got a huge draw engine online and is playing the long game.
Crucially missing the fire energy though. Did find a Psychic. That's not going to be enough to use that Dragon Headbutt for 70 damage. I still believe, Amy, we're going to see the Dracloak attack, not when I thought it would happen, but we need to find that fire energy to help us out.
We really do. Here's the flip the script. It could be big. I don't think I saw the glimpse of a fire energy, so we're still going to keep digging. That's not a fire energy either. Let's keep going. One more Recon Directive. No, let's keep going. Oh my gosh, we might miss it.
Yep, I don't see any fire energy available just now, so perhaps no KO. We're going to move 1 damage counter. Oh, it's already in the active. Couldn't tell that both energies were already attached, so that Dragon Headbutt will happen, and there's our first KO for Gabriel.
We did it! We did it, everyone! Dracloak took a knockout. Master of predictions, me. I can't be out here on the stage. I'm not a player, but I tell you what, I can make some mad predictions about Dracloaks.
Nathan only has 2 cards to work with, and that Recon Directive. I couldn't tell one he had in his hand. Ultra Ball and Boss. Ultra Ball could be good here to find Luminion, to find Iono perhaps, to try to find more pieces. Could also get Arven if we have a Dragapult, but we need the Earthen Vessel, which has been exhausted, so we need a Raw Energy and the Sparkling Crystal. We're just going to see a lance. Now, Nathan is the one playing defensively, and Gabriel with a super, super strong setup. Triple Dracloak, ready to go into Dragapult, and ready to start wrecking Nathan's board.
Gabriel definitely looking like he has the advantage right now, but if Nathan manages to evolve into this Dragapult, which we're definitely going to thanks to Lance, we do have 320 HP to get through. So, you know, Gabriel is going to have to work really hard to damage through Nathan's board effectively.
That Pheasantipity is definitely going to help Nathan stabilize a little bit more. He can still get an attack going. He can still establish his own Dragapult. So this draw with Pheasantipity is going to be huge. And he still has access to Luminion V potentially. So big 3 cards here coming with the Flip the Script.
Here we go. Flip the Script allows us to draw 3 cards because a Pokemon was knocked out on our previous turn. I saw a fire energy. That's very good. Another Dreepy is excellent. The Sparkling Crystal as well. Everything's in hand.
Wow, what a response. That is the perfect cards found after a non-first time. Turns out it wasn't as unfair. And now both players having essentially perfect setups. What?
I can't believe that after a not so unfair Stampers, I think we need to go and scribble out on that one. We need to rename it entirely, like you say. Unfortunately for Gabriel, Nathan has come back and made quite the recovery and now has a very stable board state going forward to knock out this Dracloak and scatter some damage across Gabriel's board for later.
We could even see Nathan have a sly smile right there, knowing he really drew well off of that flip the script. I really think Fezandipity is honoring its ability name because, wow, what a turn of events. Now, don't get me wrong. Gabriel already has a huge hand and has flipped the script and has 2 recon directives. So it's very likely that he's just going to get his own Phantom Dive activated right now.
Oh, okay. Monkey Dory is hitting the bench, so we're definitely looking forward to seeing that come around, but also just being there as a bit of a mind game as a threat to Nathan's board state is a nice feeling. Going for the Crispin there. Crispin lets us attach 1 energy from the deck and put the other in hand, so the other wasn't attached for turn, so that's fantastic. Crispin really was a fantastic addition to this deck recently, and I'm so glad to see him being used now, just in the perfect moment.
Yeah, I completely missed the 1 copy of Crispin in Gabriel's deck. I thought there wasn't any, but turns out it is available. We're gonna see the Dragapult response, so this game is completely haywire, Amy. Going
it's madness.
Like, with how both players started, I'm really surprised we're at this stage where we both have turn 3 Dragapult ready to go.
Honestly, it is fantastic, but I tell you what, I am a little bit worried for that bench Dreepy right now from Nathan, as we'll be able to use Radiant Alakazam to Painful Spoons the 1 damage counter on Dragapult, move it to the Dreepy and KO it, and we're going to counter catcher the Fezandipity for, we're going for the 2 prize cards. I like it, and taking Flip the Script offline after it was so impactful last turn.
Yeah, Gabriel had quite a few options there. Could have gone for the Dust Clubs and the Dreepy to get 2 prizes. That would have left the Fezandipity there to draw. Now, by denying the Fezandipity, it will once again limit Nathan's options. There's no more Dracloak in play right now. So, pretty well done, but that does mean there's still a very healthy Dragapult DX in play for Nathan.
Very much so, and that's the thing with the Dragapult mirror match, right? The Dragapults can't one-hit KO one another, so either you've got to find a way around that fact, or it really is a bit of a tussle between both players as they continue to spread damage counters around and just use Phantom Dive again and again until eventually someone goes down.
Now in this war of attrition, there's an opening for Nathan if he's able to find Dusknoir. Actually, I think Dusknoir is prized. If Dusknoir had been available, Nathan could have actually KO'd both the Dragapult and the Dracloak on the bench. So that is one vulnerable spot in Gabriel's current setup. But I think Nathan only has 1 card in hand, so pulling that off might have been a bit difficult.
Maybe indeed. I like this removing the Fezandipity from play just because it does really make the difference, like you say, from the Flip the Script, as Nathan won't be able to recover much. We don't have any card draws, so we are living in Top Deck City.
All right, Arven Energy, a Dragapult available. We can recandy into another Dragapult, right? Get an energy attachment down, and then in the end, if you end up having more Dragapults than your opponent, that seems like a good way to try to win this match. Now,
absolutely. That Arven was really nice. That has really saved the day a little bit, because otherwise the hand was not looking too great. But we do still have the Dragapult in the active, but it's obviously nice to make sure this Dreepy doesn't go down when it's so low on health.
Seems like Nathan has something else in mind, likely gonna try and recover the Fezandipity. This does open up a possibility for Gabriel to win the game next turn by taking 3 prize cards.
Absolutely, 3 prize cards in 1 turn. Something Dragapult really specializes in.
Now Nathan. What is he going to try to piece out? Clearly he has a game plan, something that is different than protecting that Dreep. He feels like he needs more help, perhaps looking for, I don't know, in order to disrupt Gabriel's huge hand. No, we're just gonna get that Dracloak into play.
Going for more card draw instead. I don't dislike this, but we've ended up with a counter catcher and an Iono. Counter catcher can be played, Iono not so. But definitely a tricky decision still, as Nathan still has a really small hand size, so maybe going for the Iono to repopulate that next turn, but I think we went with the counter catcher in the end.
Yeah, I think he kept the counter catcher this time around. He really wish he could have kept both cards, right? They're both amazing. We do have the rescue board. Make sure that gets attached in case your hand gets disrupted. You don't want to redraw that over again. And we're just gonna see the Phantom Dive doing 200 damage to the active and taking down the Dracloak on the bench.
Yeah, knocking out that Dracloak again, just keeping Gabriel's board in check, because now we don't have any backups once this Dragapult falters. Okay, over to Gabriel's turn. We've got a really heavily damaged Dragapult in the active and nothing on the bench to evolve this turn. This could be the pivotal turning point that Nathan needed to disrupt Gabriel's gameplay, once having a really solid bench, but now only support Pokemon to be seen.
Yeah, Gabriel has focused so much on denying resources for Nathan. We see an attach being committed to the Monkey Dory at this point in time, which is very interesting to see. We could actually end up seeing a Mind Bend, and this game could end up coming down to a coin flip of confusion, Amy.
I love seeing status conditions at this stage of the game, showing that all of the different mechanics of the Pokemon TCG are worthwhile. Mind Bend can really change things up, so it's worth going for it and just pulling out all of the stops we've used. There we go. Alakazam to move the damage counters around on Nathan's board, because we don't need quite so many on that Dracloak to take a knockout this turn.
With Gabriel not being able to take 2 prizes here, he's gonna go ahead and make sure that the Dusclops is KO'd most likely this turn, or he's saving some damage as he only needs to place 6 on the Dracloak this time around to get a knockout. I feel like you need to deal with the active Dragapult. You will need to KO that over the course of 2 turns, and by preventing the Dusknoir, you prevent a possibility for a 3-prize turn for Nathan.
Absolutely. Prioritizing what's going to keep you in the game, definitely the most important thing right now, because the only way that Nathan can alter the damage that he's putting out each turn is to use those Dusclops. So we're going for, was that another Lance?
No, we're using an Ultra Ball, finding that Body.
Okay.
Probably just trying to thin the deck before drawing off of that Festivity. We're gonna see an Iono. I mean, Nathan doesn't have a lot of cards so far. He's only used 1 Recon Directive last turn, so you know that he probably has 1 card that he kept, but you don't know how good it is. And Gabriel's hand is huge right now, so he will be putting a lot of resources to the bottom of the deck.
Absolutely. Going ahead and putting 2 energy back into the deck using Super Rod. They get shuffled back in so Gabriel can continue to make sure that energy is definitely part of this strategy, keeping on in there. Now, a large hand size can be good, but it also can be damaging because of the opportunity that you unlock with Radiant Alakazam being able to be used as an attacking Pokemon with these decks. So Gabriel using Iono kind of stabilizes his own hand whilst disrupting Nathan.
All right, Gabriel hasn't even established a single Dreep. He didn't want to open up the possibility for Nathan to win the game next turn with that Radiant Alakazam that you were mentioning. So this is gonna be a difficult situation for Gabriel. He will do 200 damage to his Dragapult, probably knock out the Dracloak. No, I think you have to knock out the Dusclops, but then you have to rely on Mind Bend. Yep, there's the Dusclops going down.
Well, it might come up to Lady Luck and coin flips on confusion. It could be so risky when you're confused to attempt an attack, and it's not ideal for Dragapult to be retreating, so it might not be such a bad idea. I quite like kind of trying to disrupt and confuse quite literally your opponent and their Pokemon. We've gone and grabbed the Iono off the Dracloak's Recon Directive. A nice card to start with, but what's going to follow up for Nathan?
He has a boss's orders as well. There's no way to win the game in this particular turn, so Nathan might have to prioritize. Just if he gets another Dragapult established on board, he's gonna win. And now Gabriel might have been banking on the fact that he could hit the Blood Moon Ursaluna off the prize cards after taking that knockout, but I do believe he did not take it. If Blood Moon Ursaluna was available, Gabriel would have had a very easy way to close out this game. But can we take a look at the prize cards to see if the Blood Moon Ursaluna is still there? It is.
Oh no, that's very unlucky for Gabriel. So we aren't going to see that Blood Moon Ursaluna come out of hibernation just yet. Nathan still with the open opportunity to take this win by taking out the only Dragapult on Gabriel's board. And Monkey Dory left to try and fight out this battle.
All right, Dragapult goes down. I think we are about to see a Mind Bend if we can find an energy. No other options for Gabriel. Nathan wasn't able to establish another Dragapult, so he's gonna try his best to avoid that coin flip, but generally this game could come down to a coin flip, baby. I can't believe it.
I can't believe it either, but that is exactly what the Pokemon trading card game is all about. Unexpected twists and turns to create fantastic battles between strong Pokemon and even stronger trainers.
I wonder if Gabriel had attached energy to the Radiant Alakazam instead. If Nathan had 6 cards after taking the prize cards, maybe he would have been able to take a knockout that way. I don't know if he has that many. I don't think so, but yeah, I really think if we have an energy, we're gonna see a Mind Bend and the game will come down to confusion, or unless Gabriel still has 2 prize cards left. So if Nathan can find a Dusclops and put 5 damage counters on the Monkey Dory, that would be game.
It very much would be. Nathan looking like they are in a commanding position right now. Gabriel still needing to attach another energy. Doesn't look like he might even have it. Of course, we've got the Darkness energy still in the prize card, so we definitely can't use Monkey Dory's Adrenabrain ability. This is looking really scary. This could really come down to the wire.
2 cards. Can we find an energy? Doesn't seem like he did.
Doesn't look confident. We've got,
right.
Okay, counter catcher trying to stall the game out a little bit. Can Nathan now retreat the Rotom? Just trying to use every single mechanic, every single stride that Gabriel can get to as he is behind on the prize card.
Turo was the 1 card.
Nathan takes the win with a huge Professor Turo scenario to take that Rotom back into his hand, allowing that final knockout for the final 1 prize card.
The last 2 prize cards for Gabriel were quite literally the best 2 cards Nathan could have hoped for. If Blood Moon Ursaluna was available, Gabriel could have had a very easy way to knock out the Dragapult, or if he had access to that Darkness energy beforehand, he could have sent a lot of those damage counters accumulating on his board over to Nathan's side to be able to take a prize card or those 2 prize cards much earlier. So very unfortunate circumstances for Gabriel. Feels like odds were always against him in this match.
Honestly, after Gabriel's setup, I was so confident. I was feeling really great for him. I thought, oh, surely Nathan can't bring this back, but Nathan just played so perfectly and every single odd came out in his favor. Let's check out how that went one more time.
We saw that by taking down the Badu. Gabriel responded with almost a perfect hand. Triple Dracloak on first stamp. Pheasantipity, energy for attach, taking away Nathan's hand. You can see how glad he was recognizing that. That was pretty...
That was pretty skillful.
Yeah, pretty well done.
Honestly, that was perfect timing. Nathan then somehow made the flip of the script of the century. I'm calling it. You show me a better flip the script. I bet you that's the best one.
If you had asked Nathan which 3 cards he would like to draw, I'm pretty sure he would have chosen exactly those 3 cards. That was the perfect response that gave Nathan the lead, and then Gabriel set up because he didn't have that backup Dragapult established. He wasn't able to overcome, and it didn't end up coming down to Mindbend because there wasn't even an energy played. It all came down to that Professor Turo being the 1 card off of the Iono. So Nathan drawing pretty well off of those disruption cards so far.
That is a wow with a capital W, Pablo. Wow. Those top decks, the Pheasantipity, everything went Nathan's way, and we saw that aggression has overcome the defensive stance of Gabriel's deck thus far. But will Gabriel's defensive stance overcome the aggression of Nathan's Dusclops and Dusknoirs on this occasion? We've seen offensive win game 1, can defensive come through and take game 2. Gabriel did everything he could to disrupt Nathan. Nathan still came through, but will the disruption stick in this game 2 of our Pokemon trading card game championships for Europe?
And this is where the pressure starts piling up, right? I think Gabriel should be confident that he really played that well. He got pretty good draws, and he honestly got pretty unlucky with the combination of the prize cards and Nathan's draw. Perfect draws off of the flip the script, to where if this game 2 plays out similarly, it's very likely he will come out the victor. However, Nathan must be feeling pretty good. Everything went his way, both against his opponent and for himself with those draws. So if it's your day to win the tournament, this game 1 really showed that.
Unfortunately, in this game 2, it seems unlikely we'll be flipping the script for a while, as Pheasantipity sits pretty in the prize cards, taking a back seat after such fantastic draws. Pheasantipity has decided it needs a rest.
Yep, Pheasantipity gonna be living in the prize cards until the very end of the game. No extra cards for Nathan. That Dragapult and the energy could also prove to be crucial. We are playing only 2 copies of Dragapult DX in our deck for Nathan, so having access to only 1, we do have Night Stretchers, a couple of Night Stretchers available, so we can continually recover it, but sometimes you need to search for it with that Ultra Ball.
Absolutely, and moving on to Gabriel's turn after quite a simple turn for Nathan with just the Radiant Alakazam in the active, an attach of an energy, and 1 Dreepy thanks to an S-Ball on the bench. We move on to Gabriel's turn, which hopefully will be a bit more fruitful for him with the Buddy Poffin.
And over in the prizes, we do see the unfair stamp right there, so we're not gonna be disrupting heavily too much until the middle of the game. And that counter catcher at the very top could be crucial as well. These decks really love to disrupt and ghost, mess with their opponent's setup, make sure they are taking down the right threat or attacking the right Pokemon. So not having access to that counter catcher throughout this game, or having access to only 1, could actually be very crucial for him.
True. So we've gone for Arven, taking a Buddy Poffin for the Dreepy and the Badoo, assessing that Nathan's turn 1 was, well, quite lackluster. I think that is a good shout. And the other card off our Arven being our rescue board, so that Dreepy can hop on a little board and jump out of the active for free. No retreat cost involved.
Yeah, rescue board, very clutch for sure. Gives you a lot of maneuvering throughout the game, no matter where you attach it. And of course, that Itchy Pollen on your first turn will definitely prevent a quick Dragapult from Nathan.
Absolutely. Turning item cards offline. Will it be enough just to allow Gabriel to get a more solid footing in this game than last time, slow Nathan right down, and allow Gabriel to take this game by storm?
Gabriel being very thorough with the price checking, I believe, this time around, making sure that he knows exactly what he can count on, what he won't have access to. And this time around, I would love to see the Blood Moon Ursaluna come into play, and the Monkey Dury. Those are the 2 cards that really distinguish Gabriel's list from the rest of the Dragapults, honestly, Dragapult Dusnor. So I would love to see how he prepared for this mirror match, which I'm sure he knew was going to be the match he was going to play the most at the European International Championships.
Such a popular deck. I'm not surprised we're seeing lots in our finals. Of course, as predicted, going ahead and using that board to bring Dreepy back to the bench, attaching a fire-type energy to the other Dreepy is great foresight for the future, making sure that we're going to get a Dragapult powered up in time. Badu into the active for an itchy pollen, so nasty, and giving 10 damage to our Radiant Alakazam, whilst also not allowing Nathan to play items on this turn.
Hey, if you had told me before we got this game started that we were going to see a bite, we were going to see a dragon headbutt, and we were going to see a mind ruler to deal with the first few prizes, I would not have believed you. But I think that's how Nathan is planning to deal with this Badu and free up his setup.
I think that's just what you've got to think, though. Anything can happen in a Pokemon battle. Every twist and turn is unlike the last. And that's exactly how our players have got to this point, is by being unpredictable, playing well, knowing their outs. And as we carry on with Nathan's turn with an Arven, we get to take an item card and a tool card. The tool can be played, so the Sparkling Crystal can be attached to a Pokemon, but the item card will be unavailable until Badu has stopped being quite so irritating with that itchy pollen.
Does Nathan have the energy to deal with this Badu, or are we going to see a pass? He does have the Psychic Energy. That does mean there's only one left outside of 9 stretchers to power up multiple Dragapults. But there's the Mind Ruler doing like 1,000,000 damage to that poor Badu, because Gabriel has a very healthy hand. And now it's on Gabriel to make something happen here.
Okay, there we go. We've taken the first prize card of our second game of this seniors finals. We're using Radiant Alakazam's Mind Ruler attack, which does 20 damage for each card in your opponent's hand. I think this is a great attacking option right now for Nathan, and it's lovely that we've seen a plethora of attacking Pokemon in this deck, regardless of Dragapult being in the forefront of our minds.
And that's one of the characteristics of top players, right? It's like, yes, I'm playing a Dragapult deck. That doesn't mean I have to commit to attacking with Dragapult every single turn, and finding ways to disrupt the price trade-off, disrupt your opponent's plan, and make sure that they're not doing their optimal play or attacking the optimal Pokemon that they could is part of how you really make sure you're getting the most out of your cards and making sure you're planning to the best of your ability on how to win each game.
You're not wrong, Pablo. And as we continue with Gabriel's masterful comeback, Luminion comes into play with our fantastic ability, Luminous Sign. On play, Gabriel gets to search his deck for one supporter Pokemon. Of course, there we go. We're getting the Lance played down for those Dracloak, as per last game, making sure that we get that really strong draw engine after Badu bought us a little bit of time.
It's important to note that Gabriel does play 2 copies of Badu, so if he really wishes, he could go into that and try to buy himself another turn. And I think he just drew it. Yep.
Off the flip the script. Now that would be quite fantastic, since we can't really take a knockout this turn. Maybe it's worth continuing Badu's prowess. Yeah, he's going down. Let's go. We get to retreat thanks to Rescue Board, and Badu is in the active once again. Itchy Pollen, 20 damage total now on Radiant Alakazam, and no more items still.
No more items. Now Nathan, of course, ready to deal with that Badu. If he's able to find a Dragapult and another energy, he would actually be able to start using Phantom Dive. However, with no item cards, that does seem quite difficult. Seems like he has a tough choice there of that Recon Directive between Rotom and an Iono. But that Dracloak is definitely very exposed. Yes, Nathan can deal with the Badu, but Gabriel already has access to Counter Catcher. This will activate Flip the Script if Nathan takes the knockout. And so if Gabriel takes down Nathan's only Dracloak in play, that Radiant Alakazam is good, but it's no good against a Dragapult.
That is so true. Unfortunately, Radiant Alakazam can't quite stick out for that long.
No Dreepy drawn.
Oh no. And I don't think a Dragapult either, so we can't kind of take that aggressive stance.
Yeah, and we can't evolve to protect at the very least, right? So,
Oh my gosh.
rough situation here for Nathan. He's going to pass. He's not going to take a knockout. He's not going to activate Flip the Script to not give Gabriel extra cards. But I think I see enough in his hand. I think he might be missing. He has an Arvin, so he might be missing either Dragapult or the Counter Catcher to pull this off, Amy.
Yeah, I think we're going to go for the Fire Energy there rather than Professor Turo, or...
Yeah, it was the Professor Turo
we
kept.
went for the Turo.
There's a Dragapult, never
Okay.
mind. We have Arvin for Counter Catcher.
Oh, wow, fantastic.
There we go. We can also establish that Force Seal Stone in our hand for later down the line. No, we have the Luminion already, so now Nathan will only have a single Radiant Alakazam. Now he will be able to play item cards. He will be able to puff in for a lot more 3Ps, but when staring down a Dragapult, this is really bad for Nathan.
Really, really bad. I mean, not being able to establish a Dragapult, still going with that Radiant Alakazam, which just can't deal with the Dragapult. Gabriel's defensive and disruptive stance is definitely making a stand in this game too.
Now, I wonder if, as Gabriel, you actually, if there's ever a situation where you choose not to Recon Directive, try to minimize the damage that Radiant Alakazam can do to your Dragapult, just to make sure that you're as healthy as possible when Nathan finally is able to make something happen.
Absolutely. That's the odd part about this tussle, right? Radiant Alakazam's definitely ready to go. Does Gabriel stop drawing cards to help himself, but not help himself? It's very strange, a very odd conundrum indeed, but your cloak goes down, and Nathan is stuck with a very tricky conundrum.
Nathan is unlikely to take a prize card this turn, so Gabriel really wishes he had a bench space open to use his own Radiant Alakazam, transfer some of the damage from the active to the Dreepies that will eventually hit the board so that he could take a double prize knockout. However, he can search for boss to target down whatever Dreepy eventually gets an energy, right? So Gabriel is in a fantastic spot here. Now, the game's not over by any means. If there's one deck that can make a comeback, it is Dragapult, right? We've seen it over and over throughout the whole weekend. But this situation, that is a tall mountain to climb, Amy.
It really is. Gabriel is firmly in the driver's seat as Nathan struggles to take control of this game. Currently only one Dreepy is not going to be enough. We're going to need to establish more than one to certainly get going with this game and bring it back. We're going to need a more definitive stance than this right now to bring this back. Otherwise, Gabriel could just run away with this victory.
You can tell Gabriel is very, very pleased with himself. He's confident. You can see it in his stance, and now Nathan is definitely struggling to piece something out here. I wonder what else is in his hand. And I don't know, this has to be a really good 5 cards, Amy.
It's 5 cards. That's a lot of cards. But you're right. It needs to be a very, very good 5 cards.
Yeah.
Boss, Energy, Rotom. Ooh, I don't dislike the Rotom and the Forest Sealstone, actually, because that would allow us to draw more cards and kind of make this slightly better ready for next turn. So using the Forest Sealstone just to ensure that the board is solidified is actually quite a nice position to be in.
Yeah, it doesn't feel great to use your V-Star power to just get a body puff in, but Nathan needs more than one Dreepy. He sees that Gabriel has his Forest Sealstone established. He knows he can access any card he wants, and you can't assume that your opponent's boss's orders is going to be priced every single time, right? So Nathan needs more Dreepies, and there we go. Body puffin, 3 Dreepies into play, 3 extra cards from the instant charge. So I would say it was a pretty good Iono.
I say that was a pretty good Iono too. Honestly, Forest Sealstone for Buddy Puffin might not feel great, but that's exactly what V-Star powers are for. You can use it once per game, but it's game changing. Nathan needed to re-establish Dreepy on the board to continue to make this comeback.
Yep, now Nathan will need another really good 3 cards here off of this instant charge to finish his turn. Combination of Dragapult, Rare Candy, Sparkling Crystal, Ace-Spec, all of those will be very welcome. And now it's on Gabriel's side. He has an advantage. He has the initiative. It's on him to make something happen here.
Absolutely. Here we go with our first Recon Directive. We definitely want to be drawing cards now. There is many Dreepies staring us down, and we want to minimize that impact as much as possible. We have 5 prize cards left to take. Nathan absolutely can make a comeback, so Gabriel needs to make sure that he's making every move towards disrupting Nathan's board and hand once again.
Oh goodness, Gabriel does have his Professor Turo available, so this does mean he can bench the Radiant Alakazam, can use his own Painful Spoons, and can take down the Dreepy that has an energy. There we go. Can move some of that damage to the bench and make the best use of the previous damage counters he established the previous turns.
Absolutely fantastic. That Dreepy only needs 1 damage counter, so even just 1 Itchy Pollen from a Badoo can make all the difference in this matchup. Radiant Alakazam's Painful Spoons dishing out some damage on some Dreepy to really change things up. We're going to knock out the Radiant Alakazam and a Dreepy with an energy, making it really hard for Nathan to come back, using every measure necessary. Nathan now needs the Sparkling Crystal to make a return attack on this turn.
Gabriel needs to evolve both Dreepies at the very least to not lose to a Boss's Orders next turn, but things are definitely not going for him right now. Does find a choice between Arven and Lance. Not an easy one. I think you essentially need both, and you have Night Stretcher, but you don't have access to Dragapult just yet. That's why this decision is quite tough.
I think personally I'd go with Arven. We can go for the Ultra Ball and the Sparkling Crystal, and then we have both.
Yep.
It's not ideal to be discarding some of these cards in hand because they are phenomenal, but at least it gives you the option. It gives the possibility of an attack from a Dragapult on this turn. Going for Night Stretcher, what are we going to take out of the discard pile? Going to go for a Dracloak, maybe taking the slower approach here. Yeah, gone for the slow approach. We're not going to establish this turn.
It's just with that Ultra Ball, I don't think Nathan had enough cards to really discard and have everything. He would have needed to get the energy, get the Sparkling Crystal. So close, right? Arven almost got him there, but now he at least has to evolve so he doesn't lose to the boss that Gabriel knows he has access to with that Forest Seal Stone. Things are looking really bad here for Nathan.
They really are. Unfortunately, Nathan has made every stride to try and make a comeback here, but unfortunately still just a few cards short of those impressive combinations we need to make it back into this game. Going for the Boss's Orders on the Radiant Alakazam. Great move, trying to disrupt Gabriel back, kind of give him a taste of his own medicine, and we're going to instant charge for 3 more cards and ending our turn with that.
This is so good for Nathan. That Boss's Order is so key. The Professor Turo has been exhausted. The rescue board is right now attached to the Dracloak on the bench. So I think Nathan will get himself a turn to really have a little bit of breathing room. I don't know that Gabriel can piece out an attack this turn. However, he did Forest Seal Stone for something. I don't know what that is, but that could be the key card to attack it. Oh, he has a switch.
Oh, brilliant. There we go. There's the switch straight into the Dragapult. Once again, Forest Seal Stone showing us why V-Star abilities are indeed once per game.
Goes for the Boss's Orders, targets down the energy, which is so crucial, forcing even more cards from Nathan, and preemptively attaches energy to the Radiant Alakazam to make sure that he doesn't find himself in the same spot as he was this turn. Gabriel 1 turn away essentially from potentially winning this game. Everything going well for him.
Big hit, taking down not only the Dracloak inactive with the energy, but placing more damage counters for the future. Rotom looking pretty shaky on the bench there as well, I imagine, because 1 Boss's Orders does take that down for a guaranteed game winning move. Nathan going in with a Nest Ball, exhausting all options. It's not over yet. The game is still afoot. Going for a Duskull, not a bad option now, thinning the deck, and is still possible to be used, but only 1 would be possible.
Now we do have enough cards in hand, right, to be able to Arven for that Ultra Ball that you were talking about and get our attack finally going, finally get a Dragapult established. That Duskull, though, is very likely going to be the target of some damage counters from the upcoming Phantom Dive.
Very much so.
It's going to become even ghostlier.
Okay, there's the attach for turn. Now we need an Evolution and a Sparkling Crystal to continue to stay in this game.
Have a counter catcher available as well. He's gonna bring up the Luminion now, and we're gonna Iono now. Important to note, Gabriel has used a Professor Turo, has used his switch, but more importantly, he placed 2 copies of Professor Turo's. Finding it off an Iono to 2 is a whole other question, but he does have the possibility, or with a single energy, he's fine, right? But picking up the Luminion, I think, would be really, really powerful, because then you can reuse it to find whatever support you might need later down the line.
Quite right. Okay. This recon directive, a little tricky. A decision between Dracloak and Switch. Neither super useful right now, sadly.
Nathan did not find the Sparkling Crystal, did find the Dragapult, but Gabriel taking down that energy last turn. So important, and we're just gonna see instant charge. There's the energy, there's the knockout, and we're gonna go ahead and go to a game 3.
Congratulations, bringing that back. Gabriel with a big game win. Dragapult versus Dragapult, but a very different strategy. Defense winning this time. Will the defensive stance or the offensive attack go in either of their favor for this game 3? Very decisive, showing they're very evenly matched at this stage, both playing fantastically, and my word, have they definitely practiced this before.
It might not look like it, but that Padu attacking twice, giving up a single prize card, the other was surviving, but those 2 turns of no item cards really prevented Nathan to have any sort of decent board. He was never able to find the lands. He couldn't get more than 1 Dreepy into play, and by the time he got it, it was too late. So let's take a look at what happened in this game 2 so far.
My word, Radiant Alakazam, didn't expect that, but really happy we got to see Radiant Alakazam putting in some work, taking out those Badoo. But unfortunately, then it got down to a stance where Nathan had no Dragapult potential on board and was having to really try and scrape back. Gabriel doing everything in his power to put pressure on Nathan to make a Dragapult, but unfortunately, Nathan just missed the essential pieces, and Gabriel took our game 2 of the European Pokemon International Championship 2025 Seniors Finals.
We saw the complete opposite this game as in game 1. Gabriel was the one who was in a commanding position the whole time, and Nathan had no help from the draw, from the disruption, missed the crucial pieces at the right time, and that's why we are heading into game 3 now. It'll be interesting to see who Nathan decides, or what Nathan decides, whether to go first or second. I'm gonna guess second.
This is the decider, and those are the decisions that can make or break your strategy. Let's see what they decide.
He can choose to use his own body to slow Gabriel down. Of course, this all is dependent on having a way to retreat into it, which with only 6 energies, it's not as easy as you would imagine. But goodness gracious, Amy, I am ecstatic for this game 3. And I think we have enough time to where time finishing shouldn't be a factor, and we should see a complete game 3.
I completely agree, and I'm nervous, to be honest with you, Pablo. I am really nervous because this is so close. This is down to the wire. You can feel the nerves in the room emanating, and honestly, either player could win. They are both so talented, and this really is coming down to just who manages to disrupt, damage, and take out the other side. Is Badoo or Dusknoir the way to go?
And I mean, so far, we haven't really seen both decks at their full potential, right? We didn't see Monkey Dory come into play in either of these games, or the Blood Moon Saluna. We haven't seen any Curse Blast at all so far. And Nathan choosing to go second, Gabriel with the body puffin in hand. We saw once as he was setting up, he was nodding at his hand. Seems like he was pretty content with it. He's gonna have the bad news that 1 Dragapult EX is priced, and his only copy of Boss's Orders, and that Luminion as well, but I do believe he plays 2 copies of the fish.
That's rather lucky, as having 2 Buddy Buddy Puff and prize, but 1 in the hand. Yes,
Yeah.
please. We would love that on turn 1 of the game. If you are having to go first, then obviously that's a brilliant start. Making sure you're solidifying your own board state before your opponent runs away with it. I think Gabriel has no doubt that he's rather happy with that starting hand. And Nathan's starting with his own Badoo this time.
Yeah, we'll be able to delay any sort of aggression by Gabriel. We could be seeing a Badoo war in this game. I mean, with both players playing it, it was to be expected to happen at some point. Now, Gabriel knows it's all on the line here. It's the last game of the series. Whoever wins here will be the international champion. So making sure he's very aware of what resources he does and doesn't have access to.
Absolutely. I applaud both players for being able to memorize this. I'd be writing it down because I don't think in this high pressure situation I'd be able to remember, even if I'd established what's in the prize cards. I think I'd be able to remember off the cuff. These are very stressful games. Although both players have been in this position previously, it of course is still very nerve-wracking.
Oh, it certainly is. I don't think like that feeling in the stomach, you know, that you feel when everything is on the line, when you're about to achieve so much success or you have already achieved it, I don't think that feeling ever goes away.
Absolutely, completely agreed. So we're going with the rescue board, of course, on our Dreepy, which is nice to be able to retreat it with no cost. So that's excellent for Gabriel. And now really it's just going to be a case of solidifying that board as much as possible before passing, knowing that an itchy pollen is on its way. But whose pollen will be itchier?
Well, it seems like Gabriel had second thoughts on perhaps retreating into that Badoo, because in the end, whoever attacks the other Badoo first does have a slight advantage, right? If we have a 3-hit KO situation of the Badoos, whoever attacks first will have that advantage.
But I didn't have Itchy Pollen taking a knockout on my potential finals bingo card.
I mean, we could see either player perhaps try to avoid that or be a bit more aggressive with a bite here and there, right? Gabriel does have access to Monkey Dory if he does find that Darkness Energy, but under item lock it's going to be so much more difficult. So I honestly would not be surprised to see that Itchy Pollen interaction right here, unless Nathan is able to utilize Curse Blast finally this game.
Nathan going for the double Buddy Puff and having a little look at the prize cards once again. Dustclops in there, double Nest Ball and Pheasantipity. I'm not loving these prize cards, Pablo.
Nope, not loving him. Pheasantipity living in the prize cards once again. At least it's made itself a little more accessible this time around. Boss's Orders and Iono at the bottom, those are decent. Sometimes you're very glad that you find a boss after you take a prize card right off your prices.
So true.
Not terrible, but we're going to see an Iono. Whatever Gabriel was planning for the next turn, no longer possible, but I think I saw a land, so that's the perfect card to play when you're under the Itchy Pollen lock.
Wow, yeah, that is absolutely ideal. Over on Nathan's side of the board, looking really solid after that double Buddy Puffin with 3 Dreepy, a Fire Energy attached to 1, and a Dust Skull. Just what you want to see. I think both players are in great positions right now to be pulling off their strategy with ease.
Yeah, both boards looking quite good. I think we might finally see both decks running at their full engine, Amy. So far we've had half a Dragapult deck against half a Dragapult deck, and wow, not only the Monkey Dory with the Darkness Energy, but the Lance as well. How does this happen?
This is wild. Okay, going for 3 dragon types. Lance is the master of plucking those out of the deck. Monkey Dory with the Darkness Energy already attached. Absolutely perfect, giving that deck a good shuffle, and will be able to move damage around with Monkey Dory's Adrenabrain ability momentarily.
Gabriel is so aware that finding all these pieces just like raw in your hand after your opponent Ionos you, the chances of that happening are so low. But in order to become champion, you have to be very good. You have to have a very good deck, and sometimes you need that sprinkling of luck to go your way. And after that game 1, I think Gabriel earned it here.
So true, and we'll just see that the Monkey Dory might be the factor that takes Gabriel into a leading position in this game 3 of our seniors finals. So going ahead and looking like we're going to go for the item lock. We're going to move that damage counter using Monkey Dory's Adrenabrain ability over to the opposing Badu, and then our own Itchy Pollen will lead our Gabriel's Badu into the lead of the Badu battle for glory.
This is incredible to see. Now the damage from Badu working against itself, and now Nathan in a very awkward spot where if he chooses to go Itchy Pollen again, his body will go down. So Nathan actually choosing to commit to a knockout with Bite. Once again, how have we seen 2 bites this round, Amy? What?
I love it. Biting their way back, literally. Badu goes down, and now over to Gabriel's turn. Unfortunately for Nathan, board looking not too hot. Otherwise, really on the back foot with no draw engine available but 2 Duskull, and that could be what brings it back. We're really using the differences of these decks against one another. The Radiant Alakazam coming into play with an S-Ball as well.
Now those 2 damage counters on the body will be utilized to be able to take a 2-price turn, possibly on double Dreepy, leaving Nathan with no energy on the board and a single Dreepy established. Gabriel just running on full steam right now. That Iono feels like he handpicked his 6 cards. How does he do it?
Oh my word, we've seen fantastic draws from both players, but this feels like it's really taking the cake. We're going for those recon directives still. Wowza, I am absolutely astounded. We still need to see the Dragapult evolution.
Out.
Wow, looks like we're going for the double Dreepy as Professor Turo's scenario comes down.
Is that gonna pick up the Radiant Alakazam? Make sure it's not a liability for next turn.
We're considering the Pheasantipity instead. Again, Pheasantipity being a little bit of a liability itself, and then we could rebench it later to flip the script. We could also flip the script a second time if we pick it up with Professor Turo's scenario and bench it again now, but I feel like that might be risky.
That would be quite risky, especially if we don't need too many other cards. We're going to see Luminium preemptively be benched. I'm guessing there's a 4 Seal Stone to go along with
there
that.
We go. Oh, for the unfair stamp, using every single card in Gabriel's pocket, making sure to disrupt Nathan as much as humanly possible. What a play.
It feels like both times that Nathan has aggressively immediately dealt with the Itchy Pollen, he's been heavily punished both times. Now he's going to have 2 cards to work with, his top deck, and a single Dreepy in play. Now, we did see him be completely fine in game 1 in that situation, but can he do it 2 games in a row?
I'm not sure. We're going to be living off that top deck one more time. We're going to have 3 cards total for Nathan to make this comeback because there's no card draw on board. So let's see if we can see what those 3 cards are. Oh, we've got a Dracloak at least. That's a handy card. That'll give us an extra.
1 more card potentially. We're going to see. I have to imagine Gabriel's going to just knock out 2 Dreepies, right? If you take 2 prizes and then your opponent starts using Curse Blast, that just gets you closer to winning. So the difference in both players' boards is like, wow.
Absolutely. Okay, popping the Defiance Vest, possibly on the Pheasantipity just to give it a little bit of extra wiggle room, but it only activates if you're behind on the prize cards, and Gabriel is very much about to go ahead in the prize cards. We're going to, yes, put some damage on that other Dreepy and take out 2. Badu, of course, being the choice into the active as it has a free retreat cost, but also we might need to Itchy Pollen in the future.
Goodness gracious, now we're committed to the Dracloak, so no Dragapult this turn.
Oh no.
There is a counter catcher found, but there's no more Radiant Alakazam to be trapped. What can Nathan do here? Get another Dreepy into play with that Buddy Puffin and Itchy Pollen. Is that all?
It might well be. I mean, we've already used our rescue board. I suppose we could counter catcher something and hope that Gabriel doesn't have the energy in hand again to be able to attach and retreat. That might buy us some time with Badu using Itchy Pollen, but it would be a bit of a Hail Mary.
And this is where Gabriel's deck is really making a difference. The Adrenabrain has come into play. The On-First Stamp has come into play. And he also plays a higher energy count than most. He's playing 8 total energy in his Dragapult DX deck, making it more likely we see a Boss's Orders. I'm guessing we're going to see an energy to retreat. We see the damage transferred from the Pheasantipity onto the Drippy. So now we just need the energy. I'm guessing he has it because he played the Boss's Orders first. He just found another energy in case he needs it.
Looks like that's definitely going to be a possibility.
There it is.
Here we go.
Drippy and Dracloak will be going down, Amy. There will be 2 Duskull in play, and that's it for Nathan.
I don't think Nathan can come back from that with Sparkling Crystal already in the discard pile as well. I think a comeback is nigh impossible, Pablo.
I always call it, and I'm always burned, but I'm gonna call it again. Nathan, there we go.
There is the handshake. Gabriel Fernandez is your seniors victor, our champion of EUIC 2025. Congratulations.
Went down game 1, kept his cool, and made the comeback. He knew he had the right tools to deal with the mirror match, and he showed the power of Monkey Dory. Monkey Dory with Dragapult, not something I had on my bingo card heading into this weekend.
Not at all, but it made all the difference, especially in this mirror match finals. Obviously, that was the right call, making all the difference. Everyone seems so proud, my word.
His mom, I think she's always there supporting him. You can see how emotional she is. I mean, Gabriel has won how many tournaments so far, and I'm sure each and every one still feels extremely special.
Absolutely. I don't imagine there's any better feeling. Congratulations to both of our finalists. Let's watch that back.
Game 1 was really back and forth. I think that was the most even game we had. We had both players establishing Dragapults off of really powerful turns. Nathan recovered perfectly off of that on first stamp and was able to take over the game because Gabriel ran out of steam.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, Gabriel wasn't able to keep up that defensive stance after a really crazy flip the script.
Yeah, we saw that Dragon Headbutt, we saw a bite, and we saw Nathan respond perfectly at that moment. There's the Dragon Headbutt, there's the knockout. Then Nathan was able to respond thanks to that amazing flip the script.
It was absolutely bonkers. I am going to live by that being the best flip the script I've ever seen, getting the exact 3 cards we needed to make a colossal comeback.
Yeah, and you could tell Nathan was very pleased. Gabriel wasn't with how that game played out. Gabriel tried his best to respond, but it always felt like he was dealing with everything except the Dragapult, and that ultimately ended up costing him the game.
Yeah, and then not being able to establish any further Dreepy throughout just kind of meant we fell flat, and not being able to find an energy for that Monkey Dory. Professor Turo made it happen, and we moved on to game 2.
Now we see his brother watching. I'm sure he's pleased as well. And game 2 was a complete other story. There were no Dracloaks left in play. Only a field of Dreepies after that first KO. And Gabriel was just too far ahead and managed to knock out both the Dracloak eventually in order to close out the game.
Absolutely, and unfortunately, no matter how great that start looked, it didn't quite stick for Nathan, and Gabriel just found that really disruptive core of his deck so perfectly helpful, especially that unfair stamp, which finally stuck.
Yeah, on first stamp made all the difference. There was no Pheasantipity possibility for Nathan as it was priced, and that allowed Gabriel to close this out. We do have him at the stage ready to go for an interview.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the big stage at EUIC. Adam Skarszik-Watson here with our winner, our EUIC senior champion, Gabriel Fernandez. All right, let's see what he's got to say, folks. What's going through your head right now?
I just want to thank
I had a chance to speak with your brother yesterday, and he was giving you big credit for this deck. And are you so excited to just rub his face in it?
So my brother got top 8 as well, and no surprise on the deck list because he played on stream. He did very well. Unfortunately, he lost, but I created this deck originally based off Tord, but I changed so much and the list just became better. It felt a really good deck while I was testing, and I just didn't lose to anything in tests, so I brought it here and it got me the dub.
And that is indeed a big dub, Gabriel. Congratulations once again. Give it up for him, folks. He found a deck he loved, saw the potential, brought it here fearlessly, and won. And we are going to kick things back over to the desk after one more shout out.
Meta fight guide in 1 hour.
You heard it here first, folks. We're kicking it back over to the desk so we can kick off Masters Finals.
TCG game left for the weekend. We have the Masters final coming up right now with myself, Ross Gilbert, and the lovely Alex Dow. How you doing, Alex?
Incredible. I mean, what a couple of finals we've had already in the trading card game, and we still have the Masters division to come as well. And it's just so much to think about. We know obviously what the final is. We have such an exciting game of the Pokemon trading card game to come.
No, we really do. And we got a really good final. We've got Ryuki Okada, we've got Natalie Miller, we've got ourselves a Terrapagos deck, we've got ourselves a Drag. We've seen a lot of Dragapult. 3 of the 4 decks we've seen on stream already are Dragapult. We've got another Dragapult coming up in the final here. And it is a story of this tournament. The presumptive best deck coming in, still a phenomenal deck coming out of this game. And we've got Terrapagos and Claw. They're waiting in the wings. Ryuki's already won a regional championships. Natalie is one of the most decorated players we've had in a while. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, one of the key things for us is actually trying to figure out exactly how both of our players actually ended up here in this final, in this European International Championship finals. Have a quick look at those brackets just to figure out that pathway for both of our players, because it was incredible to see them make it all the way through. At the very top, we had a fantastic top 8, but Ryuki Okada has had to overcome Vinny Fernandez, the brother of the winner of the senior division, Gabriel Fernandez there. He bested him 2-1 in that top 8 match before beating the, at the time, undefeated Xander Perot in the semi-finals before making it to the finals here to face Natalie Miller.
Yeah, and we noticed there was a lot of 2-0s in that top cut there. Ryuki against Vinny, actually the only game that went to a third game. Lots of 2-0s throughout the top cut, but we showed both of the semi-finals on stream yesterday, and I'm talking to a lot of people yesterday, you know, asking them what they think of the final, and I'm hearing a lot of players who are chuffed about the matchup in terms of decks, but are also chuffed about the matchup in terms of players, because these are 2 popular players, 2 WoW-like players, 2 players that an awful lot of people are rooting for.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we just look at the other side of the bracket, Natalie Miller had to best that Snorlax in top 8, piloted by Rone. In the semi-finals, had to best that Archaludon EX, piloted by Simone Fiorito, sorry. And now, in this fantastic matchup, that we're going to see a lot of intricacies between the 2 different decks.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see exactly how this one comes around. We know there's a lot of tricks with Terrapagos, but we know that Dragapult is a naturally very, very strong deck. We saw it obviously win in seniors. It kind of had no choice, but it didn't stand up to Lugia in the juniors finals. Couldn't quite get that extra step. So for Dragapult, is it 2 out of 3, or is it only winning the mirror?
Well, it's going to be one of the most interesting things, because a player like Ryuki, who obviously has already won a regional championships here in Europe, but playing and piloting a Dragapult deck already, so he knows all those intricacies.
He's familiar, yeah.
So again, we've already spoken so many times about both of these players, in fact, just having that adaptability, that versatility to pick up different decks and pilot it to such a high level of standard. I mean, this is what makes this game so interesting.
Yeah, it really is. And I love that storyline where Ryuki comes to Dortmund Regionals, wins the whole thing with Dragapult, when Dragapult was not necessarily the best deck in the format. It was kind of there, but not really number 1. Now Dragapult is number 1 in the format, and it is in the final, but not piloted by Ryuki, piloted by his opponent, Natalie, and he's gone on to Terrapagos Clorf, which I mean, look, at this stage, I don't doubt anything Ryuki does because they've won 2 direct invites in Europe, and they are a Japanese player. They live in Tokyo. They are not from this region, but they've come over twice, and both times they've gone and taken that direct invite.
Yeah, it's an incredible feat. And I mean, in talking about incredible feats, prior to this European International Championships, both myself and Ross here, alongside our fellow casters, did make a number of predictions, and I think you're in a pretty good spot here because one of those cards is actually in the finals as well. Yeah,
absolutely. So here we see trainers' predictions. So Clorf Terapagos, essentially, I said Precious Trolley. I said Precious Trolley was going to get the victory, and it is in the final. Whereas, you know, Amy actually went Badu, which is both of these players, but it seems like that's what we've got here for the trainer predictions.
Yeah, no, and it coincides with exactly who we think in this particular matchup, that Terapagos Clorf deck, against that Dragapult, which of our players will be winning this TCG Masters final, because that's why you were kind of a bit more on Ryuki's side because of that card like Precious Trolley. But after all, Natalie did best. My main caster prediction was that Archaludon EX in the semi-finals, and so that's why I've gone with Natalie there, as we do get a chance to have a quick look at our players here. Natalie on the right-hand side and Ryuki on the left.
Yeah, we've got Ryuki, we've got Natalie, we've got Terapagos, we've got Dragapult, and if we have a look at some of their accomplishments there, start with Ryuki. We've got a top 32 in Perth this season, that Dortmund Championship this season, like we said, and then top 16s in the Fukuoka and Kyoto Champions Leagues in 2024. And as I've told you before, those tournaments like 5,000 players, that is huge, but it looks like we are heading down to the table here, getting to get ready for our Masters final of the European International Championships 2025. Yeah. And I'm seeing some prizes going down here.
We're going to get
2 3P.
Yeah, that's going to be a little bit tough to try and navigate as we get the chance to see Ryuki's prizes as well here. There's going to be some really sort of interesting sort of sequencing that's going to come out. One of those Badu's also currently prized on Ryuki's side. We know he plays 2 copies of. We've seen him on stream already. We know how important that Itchy Pollen can be in combination with that other card that's prized as well, Binding Mochi. But let's see how both these players are going to navigate this actual final.
Yeah, that Binding Mochi, there's 3 of them that can be played, and we were counting them in Ryuki's top 4 game. We spent the whole of that game counting the Binding Mochi, seeing how many were left, because, you know, that extra damage was such a big deal for getting so many of those KOs. There's a fist bump, ladies and gentlemen in the crowd, make some noise for your Masters Division final. Okay, so we start off with Ryuki and that lovely Monkey Dory, and Natalie with that Pheasantipity. And it looks like Ryuki is going to be taking our first turn.
Yeah, one of those very good things about not actually starting one of those Dreepies is actually having a Pokemon that can't be instantly knocked out from some of those tips and tricks that we've already mentioned and started talking about in Ryuki's deck. Those poisoned opportunities with that Pecharunt to try and take an easy KO and actually end the game sometimes on his first turn. But this is the opportunity to do that first deck search here and actually identify exactly what is available. Actually, hang on. This is actually...
Yeah, that double turbo. Yeah, I took a bit of a... what are we looking at?
The support has been played. Does that mean Natalie actually went first and it was just a pass back over?
Oh, if this is turn 1 for Ryuki after Natalie's had a turn, that is terrible. You're right. If Ryuki's playing a supporter, that means Natalie had a full turn where she did nothing. Oh, and that's already game 1. Ryuki's already won game 1. Natalie has nothing. Ryuki wins game 1. We're going to game 2 with less than 2 minutes taken off the clock.
Wow, incredible for a very, very first game. I started talking about the opportunity to poison a smaller HP Pokemon, but we didn't quite get the glimpse that actually Natalie was the one who went first and had that Pheasantipity EX in the active spot, fighting weak. And then that Clorf was just ready to go down in just that single quick turn, had everything already in that one hand.
Yeah, and I did wonder, I was like, why is Ryuki getting rid of a double turbo energy? That's a really useful resource, and the answer is because Clorf is a fighting type that hits Pheasantipity for weakness, and that whole turn happened so fast. I mean, Natalie's turn was literally just draw past. We didn't even see the turn happen. There come the Clorf hands. Oh, we got a minute. Can we get some more claw fans going in the crowd? I love seeing all of those claw fans. It makes me happy. But that's why Ryuki was willing to get rid of that double turbo energy, because you only need one. He had a second, and like you say, precious trolley, get the claw and everything else, get that KO. There's my crab hands coming down.
Come on, let's make sure there's some noise also for Natalie here. She's a fantastic player. She's gone, who's going to be trying to turn this back around, of course. One game down, but we know Natalie's been in positions like this before. She's been a champion before as well, so she deserves every plaudits for even being here in the first place, and we'll be looking to try and turn this way back around on Ryuki.
Yeah, one of the top players in the game. That was just a very unfortunate thing. Right, I've been here since we started doing these EU streams in 2016. I've been here for, well, I'm in my 9th year doing this. I have never seen any game in any match end that quickly. I'm not talking about a final, I'm not talking about an IC, I mean any game in any tournament. I have never seen a 1 minute, 10-second game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is actually incredible sort of scenes to actually see what's happening here as our players are still setting up for game 2, of course. But just in the lead up and build up to this actual stream finals match here, just to let everyone know, Natalie actually has bested Cloth Terapagos twice during her run to the finals, whilst Ryuki's also 3-0 against Bolt, or Dragapult EX, I should say. So this really can go swings and roundabouts here, back and forth.
So the question is Ryuki really good against Dragapult? And, you know, this is just a Terapagos exception. Or is Natalie's Dragapult really good against Clorf, and this is a Dragapult exception? One of these players is going to have their streak broken of being really good against the other decks. One of these players is the exception whereby their deck can go against it. But here we go into game 2. Natalie starts with Badu. That is a much better starter. And Ryuki's got a Terapagos in the active. And it looks like we are on Natalie for turn 1.
Yeah, it's going to be super important here as Natalie's just double checking what's in her hand. Does have Ultra Ball. Again, one of those scary things is leaving that very small HP Pokemon in the active spot. So we need to get something else going here as well, as there is that discard of that rescue board and the counter catcher for a chance for Natalie to have a little look through those prizes just as we bring them up for everyone to see as well.
One Dragapult, one Dracloak, not ideal, not the end of the world. Obviously, it's 4-4-3 line is generally standard. Yeah, that's what Natalie's playing here. And then there's that one Dusclops prize, but there are 2 in the deck, so nothing terrible in the prizes for Natalie there. She's going to be able to navigate this one okay. And I know we've seen it on the past 2 games, but just very quickly. Dragapult, you evolve up into Dragapult. You've got that attack that does 200 to the active while dropping 6 damage counters on the bench, and that fantastic Stage 1 Dracloak, which has got that recon directive ability, which draws extra cards. Generally speaking, you evolve up into Dragapult, you use Phantom Dive to do big damage and take extra prizes, and then we've got some other damage manipulation, some Badu shenanigans we can get to as we go further into the game.
Yeah, so Natalie Miller right now is just double checking what exactly she has available for the rest of this game. Remember, she's currently 1 game down after just 2 minutes, and we'll be looking to try and mount a massive comeback here. I believe there is a Droopy also in hand, does have access now to the Rotom to help set up the board state, use that instant charge, draw cards up so that on future turns we'll be able to start combating back at the Cloth Terapagos deck.
Yeah, the player that goes first on their first turn is not allowed to play a supporter and not allowed to attack, so we use Rotom's instant charge to draw 3 cards, because if it's going to end your turn anyway, well, you couldn't do anything else, you might as well instant charge. And then we go over to Ryuki and their Terapagos deck.
Yeah, one of those incredible decks, and something that we've seen in more recent times as well, especially combined with that Terapagos EX and utilizing that Aereo Zero under depths here. So we do see the Ultra Ball discarding, that Carmine and the Switch Kart, I believe, as well, as we get a chance for Ryuki to work out his prizes now. One of those Budgies again, one of those Binding Mochis, that Kieran's another potential switching out as well, or opportunity to deal more damage against EX Pokemon. So again, nothing too bad here, and there's an opportunity for Ryuki really just to start the initiative by getting all of those combo pieces.
And it's going to be, this is the game that's going to test our mathematical skills here, Alex, because what we basically got, we got that Terapagos. It does 30 damage for each of your bench Pokemon. Pokemon. Generally, we use double turbo, so it's reduced by 20. Now, 220 damage is not enough to KO something big like a Dragapult. It doesn't do enough damage. But then we play around with poison. We use Binding Mochi, which does extra damage if you are poisoned. Radiant Hisuian Sneasler, that adds poison damage, and maybe even that Kyurem. So we build up that damage much higher than normal. Right now, we've got ourselves Oranguru. When it's in the active, you search for any 2 Pokemon tool cards. That's a good thing.
Yeah, back order, a really, really useful ability within this sort of combo-based deck when you're having to piece together all of those.
Why is there energy on Oranguru?
Doesn't want to discard it away, maybe sort of just going through a different motion here. Remember, trying to utilize that double turbo energy to retreat as well, because it does require 2 energies, maybe get into something like a Badoo himself, and maybe start locking out Natalie in this game initially, because it's just that 1 Dreepy.
Yeah, generally speaking, Oranguru, not a good attacker, and you only play 4 double turbo energy, and that really is what you use for both Terapagos or Clorf, which are your 2 attackers in the deck, but it was going to be discarded anyway. Here comes Precious Trolley, and we don't have Area Zero Underdepths on the board right now, so only 3 extra bench Pokemon. 1 could actually be a Latias to allow you to free retreat, and it is, so you don't need the energy for retreating. Could we see Oranguru doing 130 damage at some point?
Maybe, but I'd like to think that there's going to be a retreat here, and then with Itchy Pollen and the Brute Bonnet Poison will actually be a potential knockout here into that opposing Badoo with the Poison, because it's 10 damage with Itchy Pollen, and then the Hisuian Sneasler allowing to tick over the damage counters from the Poison status checkup between turns.
And very important, as we pointed out on the stream yesterday, 10 damage was done and the KO happened with poison, which means it happened during Pokemon checkup, which means Fezendipity's flip the script does not work. What does work, however, Lance, go get free Dragon Pokemon, and right now it is Dreepy time.
Yeah, it's one of those few cards we started to see in more recent tournaments, especially since the release of Prismatic Evolutions and, of course, that Badoo in that active position for Ryuki there, because the Lance is able to just be utilized to effectively utilize just like a Buddy Poffin, but you're actually just grabbing any of your Dragon-type Pokemon. And here we do see Natty just going for that Dreepy and double Drakcloak, beginning to just start set up that board as well. Recon Directive now live with that fire energy attached Drakcloak as well. So 1 goes to the hand, 1 goes to the bottom of the deck.
Yeah, generally speaking, your ideal scenario is use stuff like Buddy Poffin on turn 1. You get all your Dreepy out, and then Lance will go and get you free Drakcloak, and then you've got free Recon Directive, and then you're drawing a whole bunch of cards. The fact that Natalie's got 1 Drakcloak on the board and nothing else tells you 2 things. But mostly it tells you she didn't get enough Dreepy out on turn 1. Not her fault, she didn't have the cards to do it. But it means, you know, even though this game is obviously going better than game 1, she's not getting the setup she would generally like. We see a second Dreepy, but the hand is like Arven, Duskull, there is another Dreepy. Okay, that's good, I like this.
Yeah, the one other thing is, maybe wouldn't want to have that Rotom V in the active spot, does elect to use Instant Charge, drawing 3 cards and ending your turn. Right now, with no Area Zero Underdepths, there is no space for that Clorf to come down, of course, because that Rotom V is weak to fighting.
It is, but honestly, we see the double turbo coming down on the Terapagos here. If we see an Area Zero Underdepths, we don't. Oh, I love this. Boss's orders on that Dreepy and a Binding Mochi on the Badoo. So Badoo actually does 50 damage here, and then the poison kicks in, KO's Dreepy. Ryuki takes his second prize, and what's crucial here, once again, that KO came through with poison. Fezendipity's flip the script does not work. And I know I keep saying it, but I keep saying it because it's a huge deal.
Yeah, it's one of the few things that I know Ryuki's very, very strong at right now, knowing when and each of one of those attacks alongside poison will allow his opponent not to be able to activate flip the script. I know Ryuki's played against a friend of mine during Swiss rounds on that Friday, and he was perfectly showing exactly how to do it.
Yeah, he does it over and over again. There was one point on the stream yesterday, he actually took a KO with damage, not poison, and it was a little bit surprising. surprising.
Yeah, it's one of those things I don't think either of us thought that in the TCG Masters final of the European International Competition here, would we see a Badoo take the first 2 prizes?
And Ryuki was doing this on stream yesterday. Ryuki's taking a bunch of prizes with Badoo because that Binding Mochi basically makes it Itchy Pollen for 50, and then the poison comes in. You go up to 80 damage overall, and most things you're attacking have 60, 70, or 80 HP, so most of the time it is going to be the poison that gets the KO. And, you know, Pheasant Dipty, it's got an ability whereby you draw 3 cards if you had a Pokemon KO'd last turn. It means that you can get a benefit from having a Pokemon KO'd, but not if it was KO'd by poison during Pokemon checkup. Here comes a Forest Sealstone on the Rotom to search for any card, which I believe was that Dragapult, and now we're going to be seeing an attack. What you really want, you want the Badoo on the bench so you can KO it with the damage counters from Phantom Dive. You don't actually want to do 200 to a Badoo in the active.
No, absolutely. You want to get true and maximum value from sort of the attacks that you're launching, especially with a deck when you're manipulating damage with that Phantom Dive. As we do see the first attack announced here from Natalie in this TCG Masters final, that Badoo has gone down, and it looks like just kind of double checking what's available here from Ryuki's side of the board as the Oranguru goes to the active spot. Has free retreat, of course, because of that Skyliner ability on the Latias EX. So a number of options here because that hand hasn't been disrupted at the same time.
No, here we go with that back order ability. An ability I had not remembered the name of that Oranguru ability coming into this weekend. It's going to be a long time before I forget it now. But here is the thing. Ryuki won game 1. They went up 2 prizes in game 2. They've not yet had to deal with a fresh Dragapult, and this is the challenge right now. Can you get up to that 320? And the answer is Binding Mochi, bunch of poison, maybe a Kieran, I don't know. Let's see how high Ryuki can go. But remember, because you're up by a couple of prizes and there will be opportunities later, it's not the end of the world if you don't get a one-hit KO. It would just be nice.
Yep, so we did see the Binding Mochi and the Forest Sealstone grab from that back order here. And there is a flip the script for 3 cards. And again, that Hisuian Heavy Ball coming down, making life a lot easier. When you've already had to search for those prizes, you get a chance to double check you have been correct. And when you're piloting a deck like this, the way Ryuki has been, you already know you've got it right. We've already said on stream before, we've had opportunities to try and search for prizes and actually struggled at times.
There has been more than one time I've searched my deck for a card, been annoyed that it was prized, and then just drawn it 2 turns later because I did not check my deck well enough. It's also worth noting the 2 cards Ryuki probably most wants from his prizes were at the top. So even just shuffling those prizes, putting that Kieran down a space, that is actually pretty nice because that extra damage could be a big deal. So, we're eyeing it up. There's the boss's orders on the Rotom. Why go to all the effort of trying to get a KO on a Dragapult when Rotom works just as well? Now we retreat into that Terapagos, and with the poison, an easy KO on Rotom. We haven't even seen Area 0 Underdepths yet. We don't even need it.
Yeah, Binding Mochi, and then the poison ticker between turns, the status checker between turns, has enabled the knockout on that Rodent V once again, Ross. Another sticky scenario for Natalie to find herself in, and really backs up against the wall as Ryuki has taken 4 prizes now in this game 2 of this European International Championships.
Okay, so here's a nice little quiz for you, Alex. Was that KO taken by damage, or was it taken by poison?
Poison.
Of course it was taken by poison. We had 130 damage plus a 40 for the Binding Mochi is 170, and then the poison came in and KO'd. Pheasant Dipty does nothing. Natalie hasn't even benched Pheasant Dipty in this game. It is in the deck list. Obviously it's in the deck list. She hasn't even benched it because it just never works in this matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. And even right now, having to think from Natalie's side of the board, Dragapult EX is actually dealing 200 damage with that Phantom Dive. Right now, that Terapagos EX in the active spot has 220. Even with a poison ticker, it's only going to go down to 10 HP remaining after the between turn status checkup. It won't be enough, but...
No, we saw this time and time again yesterday. The numbers work so well for Terapagos here because you end up with 10 HP remaining.
Yeah, I mean, this was going to say, but there is the options of utilizing something like the Dusclops, but it's such a bit of a glass cannon right now because you're giving up a prize if you utilize Curse Blast. And when Ryuki's already down to 2 prizes, you don't really want to make it even easier for Ryuki to just boss his orders, one of those smaller single prize Pokemon.
Yeah, there's 3 copies of Boss's Orders in the deck, and frankly, I'm not sure I would want to use Dusclops right now because at least right now, Ryuki has to take a 2-prize Pokemon, and there isn't a really easy 2-prizer on the field for Natalie for Ryuki to go and KO. If you use Dusclops, then anything, you know, that Duskull, that Dreepy, that Dracloak, they are so easily KO'd afterwards that it really would just give game for Ryuki with a Boss's Orders. Right now, different supporter, it's an Iono.
Yeah, now this is super important here, that Iono just trying to limit what Ryuki may have access to, especially when this is actually quite a difficult knockout to get in from Natalie's side of the board, right? We've already mentioned that Terapagos, even with the poison status checker between turns, will still have 10 HP remaining. And that's just when Natalie has to start figuring out her game plan of taking multiple prizes on a particular turn.
And that is really what this Dragapult deck excels in doing. Using the residual damage from Phantom Dive, plus the damage on the active from Phantom Dive, plus your Dusclops, all bundled together into a big multi-prize turn. That is the goal. Now, this is actually a sneaky big stadium here, that Temple of Sinnoh. It turns all special energy into single colorless energy, and Ryuki's deck has 2 Pokemon, Terapagos and Clorf. They attack for 2 energy or 1 double turbo. The deck is built for that. That Temple of Sinnoh has to go away.
Yeah, this is going to be really vital here. I'm really, really interested to find out what those 2 cards that Ryuki's been Iono'd into, as we're just double checking exactly what that Phantom Dive 6 damage counters are going to be dropped onto on Ryuki's side of the board. There, it's back over to Ryuki here. Could be an important turn, of course, so figuring out exactly how this is going to work because that Temple of Sinnoh is in play. One of the really cool, interesting interactions, if another double turbo energy is found, it does mean it doesn't have the reduction of the damage effect of the double turbo energy.
So it could actually give extra damage because then you're hitting for the full 240. Worth noting, Natalie didn't take a prize last turn, so the only draw Ryuki has on the board other than your draw for turn is that Pheasantipiti's Flip the Script. But that only works if your opponent KO'd a Pokemon last turn. Natalie didn't. She put a lot of damage around the board, and you got to think that was a very deliberate thing. She wants to get KOs, maybe poison onto the Terapagos. Maybe using Dusclops next turn. What do we see?
The stadium straight into hand with another double turbo energy as well. So that Temple of Sinnoh is now not live.
No, Temple of Sinnoh goes away. That means Ryuki can go and have a big bench here of up to 8 Pokemon. Here's a Nest Ball going to search for a Pokemon. So the way the maths works is that with a full bench, you would hit 240. That reduces down to 220 with double turbo. Up to 260 with Binding Mochi, up to 290 with Poison. Kieran would hit 320. Kieran would actually get the KO here. Do we have it? No, we've got a Badoo coming in, and I like this. Ryuki saying, look, I don't need to muck about with all that. I'm going to block your items, and I'm just going to get the KO next turn.
Yep, so then just kind of slowing the game down that little bit further, trying to buy himself a little bit more time. Does have double turbo energy, remember, in hand already, so that retreat of that Terapagos EX having to using the, of course, the Latias EX's Skyliner to be able to maneuver around.
Orders coming down. That's a big card.
Is that
it? There we go. It looks like we are getting this Natalie win game 2 there.
Yeah,
with a lot of prizes all in one go. We had the KO on the active. We had the KO on the bench. We had the KO with Dusclops. We had Natalie building up a fantastic turn. And I said a minute ago, I wouldn't use Dusclops on that turn.
Nope.
And I wouldn't have done. Natalie never intended to. It was multiple KOs on multiple Pokemon using Dusclops, Phantom Dive, residual damage from Phantom Dive, taking all the remaining prizes and forcing us to a game 3.
And that's exactly what we were trying to mention a little bit earlier as well. You know, you don't want to force the opportunity to have to use that Curse Blast from the Dusclops. You want to find an opening, that chance, that one turn to allow you to take multiple prizes, and Natalie piloted that perfectly.
That was a masterfully set up game, and you know, we've been saying Natalie and her testing group, by all reports, they basically found out what this matchup was, they built Ryuki's deck, and they have been testing and testing and testing, looking at every possible way to win. Natalie knows this matchup inside and out, and you can't win that game without plays like that. So let's take a look back at game 2. We saw the KO on the Badoo with the Badoo, nice and early. Then we saw another Badoo coming down with the boss's orders on the Dreepy, getting a second prize. And then we saw Ryuki really start going ahead. We saw a Dragapult taking one prize on a Badoo, but then we saw the Rotom KO'd, and that's when Natalie started setting up the board, and we saw multiple KOs all in one go super quickly. All you need to know is that was the end of game 2, and we're going to a game 3. But Ryuki gets to go first.
Well, gets to decide which way to go first, but I'm sure
I would go first.
Yeah, I mean, just offering that opportunity maybe to take that single prize. But both of our players here in good spirits. This is the final game of this TCG Masters European International Championships here. What's going to happen? I don't know which way it's going to go, Ross.
We know it could go either way. Both of these players have been good in this matchup. Looks like we have a mulligan there from Natalie. And yeah, both players laughing, smiling. Very good spirits for Ryuki. Hoping for a little bit of luck coming in here.
Let's hear a cheer for Ryuki for this one final game, everyone. One more time. And then let's also hear one more cheer for Natalie as well. Let's get this game going. Come on.
This is the final TCG game of the entire weekend. Make some noise! And if you want to throw up crab hands, I'm down with the crab hands as well.
I absolutely love this. I love this. I can't wait to watch this final game of Pokemon.
Just know, all you guys down the front of the crowd who are making the crab hands at every opportunity, you are my favorites.
There we go, a couple of thumbs up.
There we go.
But it's not about you, Ross, okay? It's not about you.
It's not about me, it's about our players, and it is about our crowd here. So much more fun doing this with a nice live crowd full of wonderful people enjoying Pokemon TCG action. Looks like Natalie does have a basic here, though, so that means that we can be getting into game 3. We are ready, we are going. It is game 3. The winner of this game will be your European champion.
This is big. Hisuian Heavy Ball allowing to check all those prizes. That one of your best starters in Ryuki's deck in this scenario is actually having access to back order. This could be a massive, massive turn, Ross.
Forest Seal Stone comes out straight away. Obviously, that Ancient Booster Energy Capsule coming out as well. You're going to need that. Those are the obvious choices for back order. And you get to put it straight onto Oranguru and then use it for, oh yeah, it's Precious Trolley, getting all of your basic Pokemon out. Whatever 5 basic Pokemon Ryuki wants to get on the board here are coming.
Here we go. Look at all the pieces.
And there we go. Ryuki is going to be your European International Champion 2025. He came to Dortmund, he won the whole thing, and now he's come to London and won the whole thing.
Wow! Savor the moment. Let it sink in. Ryuki, because this is your time. This is where dreams are no longer imagined, but lived. The weight of expectation, the pressure of one of the biggest stages, over 3,300 challenges, and one final brilliant dance partner in Natalie, all stood before him. Yet now, here he stands, alone at the top. The script is written, signed, sealed, and delivered. Ryuki Okada of Japan, paving the way, carving his name into eternity as our European International Champion 2025.
Absolutely, a Manitoga Zayamas to Ryuki coming in, winning the European International Championships. Commiserations to Natalie there. Both of those games where she lost, she didn't really get a chance to play the game at all. But it does not just come down to the final, it is a deck building. It is every game you have played up to this point. In the weekend, Ryuki, a very deserving champion. London, and Ryuki might live in Tokyo, but they are one of the best players in Europe. So let's go back to game one. Natalie starts with one basic Pokemon, and it is Clorf taking that KO nice and early in the game. And of course, fans.
We absolutely love it. Great to see them in the crowd. This was game two, of course, when Natalie was finally able to build out a large Dragapult EX. There were some big prizes taken by Ryuki, but the combination of Iono and the Temple Sinnoh and the Curse Blast has taken game two for Natalie. But
we get to game three, and it's an alarmingly similar scenario here, where Ryuki is able to go and get that Forest Seal Stone from the Oranguru, go and get that Brushes Trolley, build out that bench, and have a very similar result to what we saw in game one. But it's actually the Pecharunt, we didn't even mention it yet, Pecharunt with the poison, turn one going first, getting all of that poison damage on the Dreepy. It is a situation we don't see very much, but it actually means we get the dog. Let's go and hear from our champion.
Hello, everyone. I'm here on the big stage at EUIC with our champion, Ryuki Okada. How you feeling, my friend?
EUIC の大舞台、ただいま優勝者、隣に岡田隆起選手がいます。今の気持ちはいかがでしょうか？
めちゃめちゃ嬉しいです。
I am just so happy.
You've really demonstrated what players from your region are capable of on the international stage. Have you done enough? What's next in store?
日本から来て、その力強さをここで証明していただけました。次のゴールは何でしょうか？
世界チャンピオンです。ワールドチャンピオン。
Next goal is world champion.
I think everybody at home and in the audience here in London knows exactly what Ryuki is out for. The World Championship indeed. Is there anyone you'd like to give a special shout out here to on the stage in this big moment?
ご覧中の皆様も、会場にいらっしゃる皆様も、ロンドンの皆様も、次のゴール、世界チャンピオンということでよく分かったかなと思うんですけれども、感謝を伝えたい人いらっしゃいましたら、このマイクで届けてください。
はい、一緒に練習してくれる、YouTube やってるハル N メンバーに、まずは感謝を伝えたいかなって思います。
So I have a membership, or I actually have a channel on YouTube, and I would like to thank my members who's been testing with me, and especially the channel called Haru N Channel.
Thank you so much. This is a player with so much to prove, and he has indeed proven it here, folks. Make sure you keep up with him on social media. Follow his Pokemon journey. We're going to kick things over to the desk, though, so we can prepare for our awards ceremony. One more big hand for the EUIC champion. Back to you, casters.
Thank you so much.
Alex, we never actually got a proper chance to explain what happened. So, it is that Pecharunt card with the Subjugating Chains ability. When it's in the active, it puts 5 extra damage counters on for poison. So what essentially happened there was, we had the Oranguru searching out that Future Boost Energy Capsule. You then got all your basics with Precious Trolley. That was your Brute Bonnet with your with the capsule on. That allows you to poison both active. You then get your Radiant Hisuian Sneasler adds 2 for poison, then you're up to 3. You put Pecharunt in the active, now you're up to 8. Latias gives free retreat, so you can get the Pecharunt in the active, and it's actually 8 damage counters from poison. That is why the Dreepy got KO'd before Natalie even got a turn. You're not allowed to attack turn 1 going first. You are allowed to use abilities, and that is exactly what happened. Ryuki streamed a bunch of abilities, and it all happened so fast, we didn't even really get a chance to explain it. So that is what happened. It was Pecharunt Subjugating Chains. Subjugating Chains?
Yeah, you're correct.
Subjugating Chains ability, and it's something we all talked about when we first saw the card. I did not think I was going to see it win an international championship, mind you.
No, absolutely. I mean, probably not even Claw, in all real honesty. But look, congratulations to Ryuki. Commiserations to Natalie. We didn't really see 3 full games, right? And the one game that we did see, Natalie was able to take it down, but that's just how Pokemon happen sometimes, and that's just what, you know, Ryuki's deck's actually been built to kind of do. Just kind of inhibit your opponent, take sort of small cheeky knockouts and prizes via Poison or via Badoo, and then it was just a game plan and just the sequencing, which was perfect. I mean, opening Oranguru V, I said this right as we saw it.
You did, you nailed it.
We also saw, I mean, Natalie's face, just as she benched the one Dreepy, she wasn't feeling too great about it. It all depended on, you know, what Ryuki was going to open, and of course with mulligans as well, he's getting more pieces of the combo, and it just fell in the right way at the right time.
I think Oranguru V was basically all you needed, because you search for your Forest Seal Stone, which you can put onto Oranguru V to use, and then you get your Precious Trolley, which gets all of those basics I mentioned a minute ago, and then the only other thing you need is your Ancient Booster Energy Capsule to put on your Brute Bonnet, but oh wait, you get a second tool from back order, so you get that as well, and it literally was one back order, got everything you saw on the screen there, and yeah, starting Oranguru, it could not have been a better starter, but I need to point out Ryuki's deck is built for this. We've seen a lot of decks this weekend like Dragapult, Gardevoir, Archaludon, decks that are not built for cheeky wins. Ryuki's is. Sure, Terrapagos can't attack turn 1 going second, but Claw can.
Oh, absolutely.
And you've got that subjugating chains, which I said, you're not playing your jungle stadium, so you're capping out at 80 damage. 80 with poison is enough to get a lot of KOs. So between Claw and even just Petulant doing up to 80 with a poison, that is a lot of cheeky KOs. And yeah, I just want to, you know, copy what you said a minute ago. The one full proper game we saw, Natalie navigated it perfectly, taking that giant, I think it was a 5 prize turn at the end of the game. But unfortunately, and it's partly bad luck on Natalie's part, absolutely. It's also partly because Ryuki built a deck that can do that. There are plenty of games where Natalie starts a lone Dreepy and her opponent goes, well, I mean, I can't KO that, let's get set up. Ryuki's playing a deck that can.
Yeah, I mean, we've already spoken about the versatility of both of these players, you know, piloting a wide range of different decks. And Ryuki is someone who's already won 1 regional championship with Dragapult. He's won now a European International Championships with Claw Terrapagos. I mean, of 2 very different decks to pilot in such a field like this. I mean, I've already mentioned it, over 3,300 challengers, I would like to say, because there's only one winner at the end. They were all challengers to him, and he was the one who came out on top.
Yeah, 3,353 Masters was the final count. I believe that was the official number that we had starting off this tournament. 3,352 of them were unsuccessful in their quest. Ryuki stands alone as your European International Champion. That 2-1 win over Natalie. And like we say, Natalie, the 2-0 against Roan, the 2-0 against Simone there. But unfortunately, Ryuki's deck being able to get those quick wins. And, you know, Dragapult doesn't play a huge amount of basics, not like some other decks do. And sometimes you will have that lone basic start, and sometimes you will be up against a deck that can punish those lone basic starts.
Yeah, I can't imagine exactly how many times maybe Ryuki's done that across the weekend. But, you know, to do it in the biggest moment, the biggest final of his maybe Pokemon career so far. We know he plays in across the pond, across the seas over in Japan, where there's a field of over 5,000 players sometimes. But this is the biggest tournament that we've had thus far.
How long till Ryuki wins a Champions League? How long till Ryuki wins the World Championships? I'm not sure, but I'm seeing some silhouettes behind me on the stage, and I think that means it's time to crown our champion.
The 2025 Pokemon European International Championships have been absolutely spectacular. And we want to take the moment to thank this incredible crowd for making it such an unforgettable experience. Our trainers in the trading card game deeply appreciate your cheers and support, folks. But now let's bring them out for one final time to celebrate their achievements and award their trophies. starting with the junior division. Let's congratulate our trading card game junior finalist, Andreas Kadels. And a big round of applause and congratulations to our trading card game junior champion, Oliver Cahill. In the senior division, congratulations to our trading card game senior finalist, Nathan Osterkatz. And give it up for our trading card game senior champion, Gabriel Fernandez. In the Masters division, let's hear it from the Trading Card Game Masters finalist, Natalie Miller. And a huge round of applause, folks, for the Trading Card Game Masters champion, Ryuki Okada. And everyone give them one more thunderous round of applause. These are your 2025 Pokemon European International finalists. It's been an amazing journey celebrating these talented trainers, but we're not done yet. It's time to round out our Championship Sunday lineup with the Pokemon video game, folks. The junior, senior, and masters divisions are all set and ready to go. So let's send it over to our incredible casters and keep this show rolling.